You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 806. Chapter 806, Chapter 202 Crazy Suyu 2. After a few years, I'm 30 years old and useless. The academy doesn't care anymore. I missed the golden time of cultivation, wasted my life, and got old. I came to participate in the competition organized by the Single Divine Language Department, and fought to the death with a group of grandsons. To put it bluntly, this competition is prepared for me, Suyu. If I didn't come, this competition would probably be very boring. I would watch you guys fight to the death like a monkey show. Suyu smiled and said, "Is this what you guys want? Is this what you guys are after? Is this the sacred civilized academy? What a joke." Ever since Mansion Master Wan took charge of the academy, the strength of the academy had grown, but the strong ones were a bunch of selfish people. The rise of big families, the proliferation of factions, the suppression of dissidents, the 100 flowers blooming together, the contention of the 100 schools of thought had become a joke. What beast taming system, divine pill system, divine talisman system? They have all become a foil. At this moment, Suyu stood in front of thousands of people and spoke with confidence. Pavilion Master Sun tried to stop him a few times, but he was locked onto by the pressure and could not move. On the stage, Suyu said in a clear voice, "Such a civilized academy has long fallen. It may seem powerful, but it has long been a pile of loose sand. I'm still weak. I don't know what the head of the academy is thinking, or what the pavilion elders are thinking. I only know that if such people go to the battlefield with me, I'm still afraid that they'll stab me in the back. Since that's the case, rather than being on guard, it's better to kill them openly now. Kill those people who might stab me in the back. With this kind of me, I dare to go all out on the battlefield." As he said this, someone interrupted him and said coldly, "Suyu, there's no need to flatter yourself. The Battle of Shan Duo is your business. We're only here for the quota, why do you have to say such big words?" Suyu looked at the person who spoke, he smiled and said, "You're right, it really doesn't concern you. Zhan Hai, this matter has nothing to do with you. But let me ask you this, I'll let you go on the battlefield with the people from Shan Shenwen's faction. Do you dare to hand over your back to them?" In the crowd, Zhan Hai said indifferently, "There's no need. I won't go to the battlefield with them either." Ha ha ha. Suyu laughed and said, "This is the power of the Shan Shenwen faction. 50 years ago, the experts from the Shan Shenwen faction went to the battlefield. Do you dare to hand over your back to our ancestors?" Suyu looked at those old men and shouted, "I understand now. The Battle of Shan Duo is no longer a private battle. It has long affected the entire academy, and even the entire Great Xia Mansion, and the entire human realm." Many people frowned and did not say a word. Suyu smiled and said, "It's useless to say those big words. Someone once said that if the guillotine did not land on your head, everyone would be a spectator. When the day really comes, the others would also be spectators. No one would stand up for you. Even if you die, you're not innocent." Lu Hong said indifferently, "Are you done? If you're done, then let's continue the competition. What the human realm is like, what the Great Xia Manor is like, and what the academy is like, it's not something that a student like you can change. You can only see as far as you stand. Suyu, what you see doesn't mean that what we see is what we see. Are you very tall?" Suyu smiled and said, "I cultivate Tao and cultivate Tao. I don't even dare to speak my own voice, so why should I cultivate Tao? I said what I wanted to say, and not to follow the trend and be a snob. I think that what I see is far-reaching compared to others." After he said that, he looked at the crowd below the stage and smiled. "What, you don't dare to go on stage? You don't dare to have a life and death duel? I'm worried that I'll go against one person and scare all of you away. In the end, I'll go against all of you alone. Don't you dare. Su Yu, do you think you're very strong? Zhang Hai spoke again. He frowned and said, I've said it before. All of us are only here for the quota. Please don't waste our time. This is not your place to give a speech. If you are really interested, you can wait until the end of the competition and preach openly. As long as there are people willing to listen, you can talk for as long as you want. Insensitive people. Su Yu shouted, people like you, even if you become a strong person, you are still selfish and insensitive. Even if your comrades die in battle, you will not shed a single tear. Zhang Hai looked at him and said coldly, don't give others false accusations. Su Yu, don't think that you are the only smart person in the world. He could understand what Su Yu wanted to do. He just felt that it was very boring. What could you change? You couldn't change anything. Other than fooling some idiots, their blood would surge up and they would resist along with you. In the end, they would die without a burial place. They would become cannon fodder and be abandoned. In his opinion, the current Su Yu was just taking the opportunity to instigate those ordinary students to rebel against the monotheistic God-language faction and use them as cannon fodder. He didn't like Su Yu. He felt that he was above board, but in reality, his thoughts were dark. Lu Hong was a hypocrite, and so was Su Yu. You couldn't change anything. You could only lead a group of people to crash into a wall. In the end, you had a backer and a background. What about those ordinary students? Su Yu, have you considered it? Su Yu smiled and said, it doesn't matter if you're used to it or not. Since you guys don't dare to resist, Su Yu, will stand up and ask this academy and the great Xia Manor if this policy is right. Little punk, you're not even worthy of flying. What right do you have to say such words? Below the stage, someone scolded him again. Su Yu looked at the old man who spoke and smiled, come up on the stage, I'll tell you, do I have the qualifications to say such words? The old man's expression was ugly and he was eager to give it a try. Su Yu shouted, those who don't like me, go up on the stage. For this battle, I'm not limited to 3 battles, go ahead. When the 3 battles are over, I'll still accompany you all. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 807. Chapter 807, Chapter 202 Crazy Su Yu 3. Su Yu, can you represent your entire team? Someone shouted coldly. Su Yu smiled and said, they can step down from the stage. I won't force them. What great confidence, what great boldness. It's just that their strength is a little too weak. Someone mocked. Off stage. Wuxia had a worried look on her face. Her junior brother was usually very calm. Why did he provoke so many people out of the blue? Something bad would happen. He should just focus on the competition and get a spot. What was he doing? Beside her, Li Minyu said indifferently, your junior brother is quite ambitious. Wuxia tilted her head to look at her. Li Minyu said indifferently, your junior brother just entered the school not long ago, and he already wants to become the leader of the students. Can't you understand? In the past, Lu Wenyan, a genius expert from the Department of Multiple Divine Languages, had been like this ever since he entered the school. The students worshipped them, and the teachers thought highly of them. Before they could soar into the sky, they had already obtained the support of a large number of experts. They felt that they could carry forward the school of civilization, but in the end, they ended up with a dismal ending. Su Yu had suddenly made these remarks today, questioning the head prefect, questioning the great Xia Manor. Did this fellow also want to walk this path? The key was, did you have the qualifications and ability to do so? In the past, Lu Wenyan and the others had suppressed their peers and made the older generation willing to assist them. What right did you, Su Yu, have to say such words? On the other side. Wulan glanced at her sister beside her and said with a blank expression, sister, why did he even provoke Zhang Hai? Wasn't Suyu too arrogant? Zhang Hai, the number one person in the sky. Suyu, on the other hand, did not have the slightest bit of reverence. He even had the vague intention of competing with Zhang Hai. Otherwise, he would not have said such words previously. Wuxia frowned slightly and soon, he said with a faint smile, I thought he was someone who could endure, but now it seems that he is full of ambition. He is not satisfied with the current situation and wants to take advantage of the time when he is not free to subdue a group of people and cheer for him. Will it work? I don't know. Will it work? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Who knows? Wuxia looked at the high-spirited Suyu on the stage with some interest. If you had endured it, you would have been the second Lu Hong. However, you didn't follow the usual pattern. Now that you suddenly wanted to stand out, were you inflated, or did you really feel that you were invincible in the air? Everyone was discussing. One researcher after another rushed over. This year's Institute of Civilization was destined to be a troubled time. Especially since the second half of the year, there had been changes time and time again. It was just a competition organized by the Institute of Divine Literature. The matter of snatching a few spots had instantly become known throughout the entire institute. Below the stage, someone laughed and said, Suyu, if we give you more divine literature, what can we change? The one who spoke was Zheng Yunhui. At this moment, Zheng Yunhui laughed and said, you can represent the more divine literature. You can bring benefits to everyone. Don't forget, this spot was given by the single divine literature department. You guys aren't even qualified to open the mystic realm. When he said this, many people nodded. You guys are fighting for yourselves. They are not interested in who will be the boss. It's still the same thing. The multi-god language faction has grown stronger, but it doesn't necessarily give them any benefits. Since that's the case, who cares? It's enough for everyone to clean up their own mess. If they don't provoke themselves, who cares how they fight? If they fight, they might even be able to get some benefits. For example, this time, like the last time when Suyu fought, many of them even got something. Benefits? Suyu smiled and said, what is the foundation of a civilized master? Is it willpower or divine runes? No. It is the mind. It is research. It is development. Some people have long forgotten that they are civilized masters. I have always thought that everything depends on combat strength. Why not just support Zhangjin College? Why do we still need the Civilized Master College? Why not just change the name and call it Mage? Civilized Master added the word civilized. The main purpose is to record the civilization, pass down the civilization, and analyze the civilization. This is the foundation of our strength. What can I bring to everyone? Bring back the roots, and make the atmosphere of the college not so impetuous. Let everyone truly experience the elegance of a civilized master instead of now. Having a big fist makes sense. Zheng Yunhui smiled and said, but having a big fist does make sense. However, the fist of the Great Xia Civilization Academy is not big enough. Just by relying on a few mountains and seas, you can dominate the world. Suyu shouted, nonsense. In the past, there was still the sun and moon, but now, there is not even a sun and moon in such a huge civilization academy. Is this what you mean by being strong, and what you mean by having a big fist? What do you want to say? What do you want to do? Zheng Yunhui asked again. Suyu smiled and said, it's nothing. In a few days, I want to apply for a research institute and recruit people who share the same interests as me. We will enter the research field together and contribute to the entire civilization master, the entire warrior, the entire cultivation world, and even the entire human race. Ha ha ha. Many people laughed. This tone was too arrogant. It was so arrogant that they wanted to laugh. Suyu must have gone crazy. He was just a student who had entered the school for a few months. He said that he wanted to apply for a research institute and that he wanted to gather a group of people to enter and do research together with him. Was he crazy? Was he crushed by the single divine script department? Only a fool would go with him to do all this. Boring. Wouldn't it be good to have the time to become stronger? At this moment, even Chen Yong was slightly disappointed. He had thought that Su Yu would be able to move forward step by step, but now, what was this guy doing? He knew that Su Yu had obtained some inheritances. Did he think that relying on these inheritances would be able to do anything? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 808. Chapter 808, Chapter 202 Crazy Su Yu 4. He could support a research institute. Did he have money? Did he have anyone? He didn't have anything. At this time, Su Yu should be down to earth and should be moving forward step by step. He shouldn't be like this, spouting nonsense in front of tens of thousands of students and teachers. This made Chen Yong a little disappointed. He thought that after some time, Su Yu would be free and he would pass some things to Su Yu, but now, he hesitated. Pavilion Master Sun was no longer angry. He suddenly laughed, and there was no longer any pressure around him. He laughed loudly and said, "Su Yu, if you want to build a research institute, I will support you very much. I will support you during the Pavilion Master meeting. A person like you is very interesting. I hope that no one will be stupid enough to mess around with you. There might not be any funds, but there is still a place. I can even arrange people to help you build a new research institute." This was too ridiculous. He felt that Su Yu might be better off alive. It would be best for him to build a research institute and become a big joke in the Department of Multiple Divine Arts. He was just a student who had entered the school for a few months, but he actually dared to spout nonsense about wanting to build a research institute. Did he know what a research institute represented? Perhaps, his research institute would become a joke in the Great Xia Civilization University, or even the Great Xia Mansion, or even the entire human realm. Su Yu, the genius student of the Multigod Literature Department, had built a research institute while he was still in his recuperation stage. It was so amazing. A group of powerful fools were doing research inside, and they might not even be able to come up with a fart after decades of research. Perhaps in a few years, that research institute would be able to raise rats. And Su Yu would also become a pillar of shame in the history of civilization, a typical example of being laughed at by others. Such a blow was the true fatal blow to the polytheistic faction. Such a person, before this, was actually viewed by many as the hope for the rise of the polytheistic faction. It was somewhat laughable. The star of hope for the polytheistic faction, Su Yu, ha ha ha. Someone laughed. Su Yu was not angry and said calmly, "Then I thank Elder Sun for his support. I hope Elder Sun won't go back on his words." "That won't happen." Elder Sun smiled faintly and said, "Do your research well, and we will support you. There is an abandoned research institute near the Wentan Research Center. It can be used with a little bit of renovation. The Academy of Divine Literature can even make the decision to allocate it to you." The Academy didn't lack territory. They didn't lack these empty abandoned research institutes either. "Do you want it? If you want it, then I'll give it to you." The research institute needed geniuses, funds, resources, projects, ideas, and ideas. Territory really wasn't important. The premise is that you can gather 5 people and apply at the same time. I forgot to tell you that you need at least 5 people to apply for the research institute and provide a project with results within the deadline. Otherwise, you won't even be able to build the research institute. Elder Sun said playfully, "Oh right, Hong Tan, Bai Feng, and Chen Yong can't do it. Their names are in the Wentan Research Center. In addition, at least one of them needs to make a name for themselves. I really hope that there are others who are willing to make a name for you." I really can't do it. Lu Hong, you can force yourself to make a name for them. Lu Hong smiled and said, Elder Son has already said so. Su Yu, you can come and look for me when the time comes. It's not easy. I can lend you 2 of my students to make a name for yourself. Laughter rang out. However, Su Yu was as calm as water. He smiled and laughed. Elder Son and the others felt bored. Su Yu had lost his mind. It would be a loss of face to argue about this with this madman. Elder Son said indifferently, continue the competition. As for Su Yu wanting to fight to the death, your teammates might not agree. Remember, you are not participating alone now. Besides, it's a matter of life and death. That's reckless. Ignorant. He didn't dare. Su Yu was still very strong. Even if he killed Su Yu, he suspected that the losses this time would be disastrous. Moreover, those students might not dare to fight to the death. Forcing them to fight to the death, they might even have internal strife. Su Yu laughed. Forget it if you're afraid. Go on stage. Compared to killing one person, breaking their temperament was more hurtful. Afraid to fight. When Su Yu talked about life and death battles, no one from the Divine Literature Department dared to go up on stage. That was enough. At this moment, Zhou Hao, who was beside him, revealed a hint of disdain in his eyes. It was just as Su Yu had said. They were all a bunch of cowards who feared death. In such a huge academy, Su Yu was the only student who caught his eye. How pathetic. Get on the stage. Pavilion Master Sun shouted as he looked down the stage. He had blocked the life and death battle for you guys. 5 against 1, why aren't you guys going up? Damn it, are you guys really going to embarrass yourselves to the end? Previously, due to Su Yu's crazy words, his previous words had become a joke. However, if he didn't get on the stage now, he would really have no face to face others. Below the stage, the 5 people in the team looked at each other and walked forward without any hesitation. Many of them were waiting to watch the show. The arrogant Su Yu wasn't weak at all. More importantly, his strength didn't match up to his words or his arrogance. These words were more suitable for Zhang Hai to say. Su Yu, you. The moment the 5 of them stepped onto the stage, they wanted to say a few words to boost their morale. However, Su Yu interrupted them and said, there's no need for any nonsense. Referee teacher, we can begin now. You. The few of them were furious. They were also veteran students. They were all at the golden age of 30 years old and were not weak. The 5 of them possessed the strength of a 7 Dan or 8 Dan 10,000 stone realm. If they were to work together, even if they were to encounter soaring sky, they would be able to exchange blows for a short period of time. Su Yu was too arrogant. The referee was not Zhao Ming but a soaring sky realm expert. At this moment, he did not say much and shouted, begin. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 809. Chapter 809, Chapter 202, Crazy Su Yu 5. The competition began. Lu He and the others were still hesitating. Before they could move, Su Yu's figure disappeared. An illusion appeared. The 5 people on the opposite side unleashed their willpower. They knew that Su Yu was in control of the illusion. However, at this moment, because Su Yu had absorbed the divine essence of the eternal divine prose, the blood word divine prose became even stronger. His willpower had truly reached the peak of Tier 1. Once the illusion appeared, even if they knew that they were trapped in the illusion, they were unable to break free for a moment. The kill and thunder divine prose had both entered level 2. Under the situation where Su Yu's fighting spirit was bursting, the battle divine prose was also on the verge of evolving to level 2. The divine prose was powerful, the willpower was powerful, and the literary soldiers were also extremely powerful. At this moment, a long black saber appeared. It was soundless and soundless. It was mixed with some lightning as it instantly slashed down. Su Yu directly charged into the battle circle of the 5 people. On the other side, Zhou Hao was just about to attack when Su Yu said indifferently, "A few small fries, I'll do it myself." As he finished speaking, the sealing blade slashed down. Boom! The 5 people were bleeding at the same time. One of them opened his eyes wide and was somewhat awake. In the next moment, a leg that was as fast as the passage of time appeared in his eyes. Boom! An explosive sound. A leg lashed out, shattering mountains and seas. Gotcha! All the bones in his body were broken, just like a broken sack. This strongest captain was seriously injured by Su Yu's leg, and dozens of his bones were broken. He fell heavily below the stage. Wasn't the single divine one faction rich? Go and treat him. Su Yu really did not believe that treatment was free. Huang Qifeng could receive treatment because his teacher was Zheng Yuming. Zhou Hao could receive treatment because his teacher was Xia Yuan. To be seriously injured like that and to expend thousands of merit points at one go, would these students over the age of 30 be saved by the Divine Literature Department alone? Most likely not. So weak. Su Yu sneered, and the literary soldier landed. With a rumble, a thunderbolt exploded, directly splitting open the skin and flesh of one of the people. With a miserable cry, the literary soldier that he had just taken out was directly chopped into pieces. Bang bang bang. Su Yu's speed was extremely fast, and a series of footsteps were left on the stage. The soul-devouring art burst out, and under the corrosion and burning, the few of them cried out in pain. Bang bang bang. A heavy crashing sound was heard. Many of their bones were broken, and their willpower was burned. They were in extreme pain, and they were also intimidated by Su Yu's divine words. Until this moment, the few of them were still immersed in the illusion. On the stage. In less than 5 seconds, Su Yu finished the battle. He withdrew his Wenbing and looked down. He smiled and said, "Sorry, I won. My attack was a little heavy. I hope that the divine runes alone can heal a few senior brothers. Don't leave any trouble behind. 1 against 5, I can't hold back." Silence. 5 experts with the strength of late-stage 10,000 stone realm were actually easily finished off by Su Yu. Unbelievable. One had to know that in the past, there were 2 people who were ranked in the top 100. Now, they were even stronger than before. They were defeated just like that. A researcher from Shan Shenwen's faction walked over. A white light appeared in his hand and quickly healed the few of them. His expression was unsightly as he looked at Su Yu on the stage. He shouted, "Su Yu, this is not a life-and-death battle. You are clearly much stronger than them, but you actually heavily injured their physical bodies. The injuries were very serious. Many of their bones were broken, and their internal organs were bleeding. There were also human soldiers that were shattered, and divine runes that were heavily injured. Su Yu's attacks were very vicious." Su Yu said indifferently, "Teacher misunderstood. I held back, or else I would have died. The referee teacher is still here. Since I didn't stop him, it means that I didn't go overboard. It's just that your people are too weak. You." This researcher was furious and shocked. This fellow was even stronger than before. Even Zhai Feng was not a match for these 5 people when they joined hands. In the end, he was easily defeated by Su Yu. This fellow probably had the battle strength of the 9th layer of the 10,000 stone realm now. Coupled with the many divine inscriptions, his level was high. Ordinary 9th layer of the 10,000 stone realm could not even be compared to him. The audience was also extremely quiet. At this moment, even Zhan Hai and the others had solemn expressions. Su Yu hadn't displayed the strength that could allow him to soar into the sky, but his current strength, to those below him, was a little close to being invincible. The crucial point was, how long had this fellow entered the school? Zhou Hao also looked at Su Yu with a solemn expression. This fellow was much stronger than the last time. Was this all of Su Yu? Probably not. Pavilion Master Sun and the other experts of the single divine script department also frowned. So strong. Damn it. Those who dared to challenge on the stage had some real ability, but in the end, they were defeated just like that. In the viewing area, Lu Hong suddenly smiled and said, Su Yu, you are very powerful. It seems that you might not be afraid of Zhan Hai. No wonder you were so arrogant before. Childish. Su Yu's tone was calm, and he did not mention his name. He directly said, if you still want to die, then go ahead. Unfortunately, it is not a life and death arena. The meaning behind his words was obvious. As Su Yu spoke, he smiled and said, I hope that in a few days, I can see a few senior brothers jumping around. Don't be so old and still have to stay in bed for a few years, which will completely delay the time for advancement. His words revealed the intention of stimulating the single divine one faction, stimulating those students. If they were injured, would Pavilion Elder Sun and the others help them treat them? Their bones were completely broken, their internal organs were severely injured, and their divine runes were shattered, could they be treated? At this moment, Pavilion Elder Sun also felt the hesitation of those students and shouted, the single divine one faction students, no matter how serious their injuries are, as long as they are alive, they will receive full treatment. These words appeased some people's hearts. Su Yu chuckled and said, what's the use of just healing? We still need to waste time. Give some rewards. For example, for those who go on stage, each person will be rewarded with 1,000 merit points. I will fight for the welfare of everyone. How about it? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 810. Chapter 810, Chapter 202 Crazy Su Yu 6. Elder Sun's gaze could kill. What a joke. 1,000 merit points. Do you really think that merit points are not worth anything? You can't even bear to part with this. But you're fighting with your life and your future. Some people can easily take tens of thousands of merit points. Elder Sun should know who I'm talking about, right? Others can take it, but those who use their lives to fight for it are not qualified. Why would they need to be seriously injured to participate in the competition? Nonsense. Elder Sun shouted, Su Yu, if you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll kill you. Su Yu said calmly, speaking the truth is also against the law. Kill me. Elder Sun, give it a try. I want to use my life to exchange for a mountain and sea. I feel that it's still very worth it. I'm just afraid that Elder Sun won't be willing to part with it. You. How dare you? Elder Sun was furious. He stood up and looked at Su Yu with killing intent in his eyes. How dare he? Su Yu was here to cause trouble today. He kept provoking him. Chen Yong, are you students of the Divine Literature Department so respectful to your teachers? Elder Sun looked at Chen Yong and then at Huang Chen. Huang Chen, students who offend their superiors, do you still have rules? Elder Huang frowned and looked at Su Yu. He berated, Su Yu, don't spout nonsense again. Su Yu said calmly, Headmaster Huang, you've misunderstood. I don't dare to violate the Academy's rules. What I said is the truth. Even if I call out names, I dare to say that some people are embezzling tens of thousands of merit points. That's the merit points of the entire Academy. Do you really want me to report it in my real name? Su Yu looked at Pavilion Elder Sun, he calmly said, if Pavilion Elder thinks that I've offended you, then I'll report it in my real name. The Academy will investigate. If it's fake, I'll kneel in front of Pavilion Elder Sun for 3 days and 3 nights. I'll be fined 500 points and all of the academy's benefits will be cut off. Is such a punishment enough? Pavilion elder son's gaze was cold and stern. Investigate, what investigation? He knew who Su Yu was talking about. Zhou Pingsheng. This useless thing had allowed their single Divine One department to be caught by others time and time again. Su Yu had used them to attack them time and time again. Even though he wanted to kill Su Yu and Zhou Pingsheng in his heart, elder son still suppressed his anger and said coldly, I'll let you off this time. Su Yu, don't provoke me again and again. Do you really think that mountain and sea can be humiliated lightly? Su Yu doesn't dare. Su Yu smiled and ignored him. He looked at the students of the single divine language department and shouted, let's go again. The 3 battles aren't over yet. Do you even have the guts? Elder son looked at him coldly and didn't say anything else. Su Yu, a student, was jumping around too much. Li Shiyun, you guys go. Choose an opportunity to kill him. Kill him and everyone will be rewarded with 1,000 merit points. 1 spot in the Sea of Consciousness realm. Heavily injure him and you will be rewarded with 1,000 merit points. No spots. He sent a voice transmission to the 5 strongest people. These 5 people were all old-timers who had been cultivating their temperaments for decades. This was also the ACE team of their single divine literature department that wanted to ensure that they would get a spot. They were all strong people. Even if Shai Feng came, he would only be on par with one of them. The top 5 people in the top 100 list were not confident in defeating Su Yu alone. Below the stage, the 5 people looked at each other with solemn expressions. If he won, even if he could not fight until the end, he would still have a spot and 1,000 merit points. This was a huge amount of merit points. However, Su Yu was very strong. Once he fought with his life on the line, there might be some accidents on their side. Elder son once again shouted telepathically, get on the stage. Trash. Do you want to be completely abandoned? He was furious. He was actually so frightened by Su Yu that he did not dare to get on the stage. Hadn't he embarrassed himself enough these past few days? The 5 students who were close to soaring into the sky attacked together. Did they not have the confidence to deal with Su Yu? If you don't go on stage, you will be completely abandoned in the future. You will be deprived of all benefits and die of old age. Elder son was furious. Zhou Pingsheng's students didn't even listen to him, the elder of the pavilion. Even Zhou Pingsheng didn't have the guts to do so. In the crowd, Li Shiyun sighed in his heart. He looked at his teammates and said softly, go on stage. All of them had solemn expressions on their faces and nodded at the same time. If they didn't get on the stage, they would completely offend Elder Son and would also be abandoned by the single Divine One faction. After getting on the stage, go all out. I'll break his illusion. Wang Chao, go break his literary soldiers. Xie Hu, think of a way to seal him. Sun Qian, use the Divine One to weaken his physical body. Su Ming, use your physical body in close combat to break his primordial aperture. Li Shiyun quickly reminded his teammates. They were all experts and were old acquaintances. He knew their abilities. They were also the strongest batch of students over the age of 30 in the single divine inscriptions department. Even Zhan Hai would be severely injured when faced with 5 people working together. Su Yu, could he still be comparable to Zhan Hai? He was still Qianjun. Everyone could see that. In the next moment, a few people went up onto the stage. Below the stage, many people had solemn expressions. They originally thought that they would only be able to see these experts fighting in the finals. In the end, the second round had just begun and Su Yu had already clashed with them. This time, there were even more people coming from all directions to watch. Wuxia had a worried expression, Xia Huyo had a solemn expression, and Wan Mingze and the others were also frowning as they waited. It was normal for 2 teams like this to collide in the final stage. However, it was too fast for them to be caught off guard. It's finally your turn. On the stage, Suyu smiled. They had been waiting for you all. If the 5 students who were close to soaring into the sky were to join hands and still be blown up by him, then the divine runes alone would become the biggest joke of the day. Their fighting spirit surged. Their killing intent was awe-inspiring. Lu He and the others took a step back and left his side. A look of struggle appeared on Lu He's face. The 5 experts were going to fight, and the few of them were going to continue playing along. But on the other hand, those were people from his faction. Lu He was furious. He was like a fool, standing on this platform, becoming a backdrop, becoming a joke, becoming a joke. At this moment, he was furious. He didn't want this to happen. He wanted to continue fighting, but he knew that he couldn't. It was fine under normal circumstances. But today, in front of everyone, if he were to make a move, not only would he, his elder brother and teacher would be implicated. Lu He was furious. This wasn't what he wanted. He wanted to be like Suyu, happy to settle scores. Even if he couldn't win, he wanted to have a real fight. At the side, Zhou Hao bared his teeth and smiled. Suyu looked at Suyu and shook his head slightly. He was not prepared to let Zhou Hao take action now. After this battle ended, there might be another battle. There were many people who wanted to take advantage of the situation. Zhou Hao would be left for the next battle. As for these few fellows, he would beat them up all by himself. His acupoints were opened one by one. Yuan Qi swept over crazily. Battle intent surged. At this moment, the battle divine script was on the verge of advancing. The long saber appeared and the divine script gathered. It shook Lin Yao, who was the weakest, back continuously. He felt as if he could not stand straight. Too strong. At this moment, Suyu was like a primordial beast. He did not have the slightest weakness of a human. The faces of the 5 people opposite him also turned solemn. Good heavens, how many apertures had he opened? The momentum is too terrible. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 811. Chapter 811, Chapter 203, Defeat. I'll try my best to write more. A real man is not afraid. At this moment, the judge of the soaring realm also had a solemn expression on his face. Both contestants were strong. He was even worried that he would not be able to intervene in time later, so he could not help but look at Zhao Ming over there. Ling Yun had to do this, or else something might happen. Zhao Ming did not stand on ceremony either. Both sides were boiling with killing intent. It was obvious that they wanted to cause trouble. Once Zhao Ming arrived, he looked at the students from both sides and said seriously, "You can't kill without a reason. I will take action when it's a life and death situation." Suyu laughed lightly and said, "Teacher, killing by accident isn't without a reason, right?" Zhao Ming ignored him and looked at Li Shiyun and the others. They did not say anything. Whoever seized the opportunity would naturally take action. It was very difficult to kill a Lingyun Realm referee. However, if the Lingyun Realm referee couldn't block it, then it was the referee's responsibility to kill him. It was normal for their students to not have time to react. It was the referee who was unlucky. It wasn't them who were unlucky. Although they might have to bear some responsibility, this was a small matter. The single God text department would probably be eager to help them. Zhao Ming cursed in his heart. F***ck. These 2B** stards clearly wanted to cause trouble for him. Even the head of the refereeing team couldn't stop them. Asking the students to stop themselves, this didn't make sense. "I will take action at the critical moment." Zhao Ming shouted. "Did you hear that? I will definitely take action to stop them. Begin." With a shout, Su Yu's 300 acupuncture points exploded at the same time. Open the sky. With a roar, he did not use the divine text or willpower. Instead, it was the strength of his yuan aperture. Hundreds of acupuncture points emitted extremely powerful yuan qi fluctuations. At this moment, Su Yu had really transformed into a light person. The yuan qi in his acupuncture points was extremely dense. With a literary soldier in hand, he slashed down with his saber. Kill! His lifeblood surged to the heavens. With a boom. Opposite him, Xie, who was using the divine text to seal Su Yu. In the end, he missed. Su Yu did not use his willpower at all. In an instant, Su Yu's powerful lifeblood and yuan qi instantly broke through the seal. Bang! A divine text directly exploded. How strong was Su Yu's physical body? A physical body that could withstand 300 acupuncture points was definitely not something that ordinary people could compare to. His qi and blood were extremely strong. He directly used his qi and blood to break through his seal and explode his divine text. The only female, Sun Qian, who mainly weakened the divine text, was also suppressed by the divine text at that moment. She wanted to weaken Su Yu, but before she could get close, she was directly shaken by Su Yu's surging qi and blood, causing the divine text to tremble. Su Yu's speed was too fast. It was unbelievably fast. The sky-splitting blade instantly slashed down. With a move of his feet, he had already arrived in front of Su Ming. This was the fellow who Li Shiyun had asked him to use his physical body to fight against Su Yu. Su Ming's expression changed drastically. With an explosive roar, his willpower erupted. He had just gotten close to Su Yu and stood at the front of the 5 people. At this moment, he was the first to face Su Yu. The strength of a 10,000 stone 9th realm cultivator erupted. However, he was not an expert with 10 apertures. He was only an 8 stone cultivator with 8 apertures. Just as his willpower erupted, in the blink of an eye, an invisible small hammer appeared. With a boom, it smashed down on him, causing him to be completely stunned. Su Ming. Li Shiyun roared furiously, "Kill, quick!" He was roaring. His physical body's origin aperture also erupted, and when Bing shot out explosively towards Su Yu. The others all made their moves. Boom! The sound of air being torn apart could be heard continuously. Split open the sky. Another roar was heard, and a second blade attack was stacked on top of it. Before the blade attack could land, Su Ming's body had already been smashed into a bloody mess by the blade energy. His willpower had been heavily damaged, and at this moment, he was barely able to wake up, and his expression changed drastically. Change! A furious roar sounded out, and Li Shiyun, who was behind him, exploded with a divine symbol, instantly reducing Su Ming by a large chunk. Divine inscription transformation. However, it was still not enough. Buzz! The saber fell. Su Ming's eyes revealed a hint of fear. In the next moment, his essence aperture exploded one after another. It exploded. Powerful essence qi spread out, and with a wave of his hand, he slashed towards Su Yu's sealing saber. Bang! A loud sound rang out. Su Ming, who had exploded his essence aperture, was overjoyed. I survived. Just as he was thinking about it, a sharp pain came from his chest. He lowered his head to look, the tip of a foot had directly pierced through his chest. Blood involuntarily flowed out from Su Ming's mouth. He raised his head to look at Su Yu, but Su Yu had already quickly retreated. Su Ming staggered and half-knelt on the ground. Everything before his eyes was pitch black. Am I dead? Impossible. I'm at the 9th level of 10,000 stones, the peak of recuperation. Just as he fell into darkness, Zhao Ming instantly made a move and grabbed him off the stage. He cursed under his breath. What the F***ck? It's just the beginning, and you guys are so fierce. The white light scattered crazily toward Su Ming's body like it was free. His essence aperture exploded, his willpower was heavily struck, and his chest was pierced. If he didn't save him, he would die. Zhao Ming hurriedly saved him and instantly threw Su Ming over to Pavilion Master Sun's side. He said angrily, "You come." He didn't save him anymore. Just as he was about to save her, Su Yu seemed to know that he was going to save her. He had already appeared above Sun Qian's head in a flash. Time flowed under his feet, and the sun and moon were reincarnated as he stomped down. "Save me!" Sun Qian screamed. That incomparably dense baleful aura struck her so hard that her entire body was about to explode. Her hair exploded, and blood splattered on top of her head. If this stomp landed, she would definitely die. Li Shiyun, Xie Hu, and Wang Chao's eyes were about to explode. Wang Chao roared. At this moment, his arm turned into a tentacle and directly struck towards Su Yu's head. With a bang, the arm exploded before it could even get close to Su Yu. Su Yu retracted his long saber, which was still stained with blood. Too strong. Su Yu, who had 300 openings, had an explosive power several times stronger than ordinary martial artists who had cultivated the heaven-cleaving saber. All kinds of heaven-rank martial techniques were at his fingertips. Time shattered mountains and seas, and he had opened all of the sun and moon suppression apertures. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 812. Chapter 812, Chapter 203, Crushing Power. I'll try my best to write even more words. Real men aren't afraid. Soul-devouring art, body-strengthening art. One made his physical body stronger, while the other allowed him to corrode his opponent's willpower. The God-expanding hammer was a powerful godly skill. Su Ming, who was at the peak of recuperation, was also stunned when he was smashed by the hammer. Wang Chao was unable to block Su Yu, and Sun Qian was already like a fierce ghost. Her hair had all exploded, and blood gushed out from the top of her head. However, she was unable to get rid of Su Yu's ultimate skill. "Kill him!" Sun Qian screamed like a malicious spirit. Above her head, an acupoint that had fused into one instantly exploded. Boom! Su Yu's boots were shattered, but they were unable to harm his physical body. With a cold snort, he once again stepped on her head. Of the remaining 3 people, Wang Chao's arm was broken, Xie Hu's divine text was shattered, and only Li Shiyun was uninjured. At this time, he silently sneaked behind Su Yu and slashed his sword at his neck. Very strong. However, Su Yu instantly turned around. Su Yu was extremely fast, allowing his sword to pierce into his neck. Some blood flowed out, and he opened his arms. With a smile on his face, he directly hugged Li Shiyun. He hugged him tightly. He hugged him tightly. The soul-devouring art was activated, and Li Shiyun let out a miserable cry. His willpower was instantly withdrawn, but he withdrew his willpower. He was in the 9th stage of the 10,000 stones realm, but his physical body was not strong. He was directly held tightly by Su Yu. With a bang, the arms that were trapped were directly shattered. Your physical body is really weak. This was also the 9th level of the 10,000 stone realm. 10,000 stones with 72 apertures opened, and 10,000 stones with 7 apertures advanced. Such a 9th level of the 10,000 stone realm was too weak, too weak. With a bang, Li Shiyun let out a blood-curdling scream. Below, Xie Hu endured the pain of the divine runes exploding, and his arm stretched out to grab Sun Qian, instantly pulling Sun Qian away. Bang! Su Yu landed on the ground and stepped on the stage. Sun Qian was pulled back by Xie Hu, but one of her legs was unable to leave. She was directly trampled into meat paste by Su Yu. At this moment, Su Yu was still hugging Li Shiyun. With a sneer, the power of all the acupoints in his body exploded. The iron hammer appeared again. With a rumble, it smashed Li Shiyun's head so hard that it was about to explode. His entire person directly fainted. Su Yu reached out his right hand and grabbed his head. Glancing at Zhao Ming who was about to attack, Su Yu chuckled and grabbed his head. With a boom, Li Shiyun was sent flying. Bang! The air exploded, and Li Shiyun's entire body was about to explode. Zhao Ming cursed and quickly grabbed at him, quickly suppressing the explosive force in his body to prevent Li Shiyun from being killed. He had just taken over Li Shiyun when another miserable scream sounded from the other side. Sun Qian, whose leg had just been stepped on by Su Yu, was directly pierced through the chest by Su Yu. At this moment, Su Yu had already appeared above Xie Hu's head. His speed was too fast. The few of them could not keep up with his rhythm at all. Their willpower could keep up, but once willpower appeared, corrosive burns followed. They were prepared. They were protected by divine talismans. But at this moment, they did not even have the time to activate the divine talismans. They also did not have the time to activate the divine talismans. The activation of the divine talismans required time. It was too fast. Zhao Ming once again cursed loudly and reached out to grab Sun Qian. He was going to die again. 5 people. In the blink of an eye, 3 people were almost killed. Sun Qian was about to die. And Xie Hu. Why not wait a bit and take her away? Otherwise, these 2 would die. Too strong. His body was invincible, his willpower was strong, his willpower was burning, and there was also a divine skill that could directly strike willpower. At this moment, Su Yu's offense and defense were incomparably strong. His body was much stronger than an ordinary 9-storied 10,000 stones. Li Shiyun's body collided with his, and in the blink of an eye, he was almost turned into meat paste by him. Zhao Ming had just reached out to grab Sun Qian when Su Yu laughed mischievously. The Wenbing that had stabbed into Sun Qian's chest suddenly erupted with wisps of flames. Lightning burst out at the same time. It covered everything. It blocked the traces of the flames. Boom! The lightning-type divine text of a rank 2 divine text exploded, and its power was also incomparably powerful. Sun Qian was blasted into pieces, and her head was still intact. The instant she opened her eyes, an earth-shattering scream came from her mouth. Flames! Even if it was just a wisp of the soaring heaven realm flames, it was enough to burn her willpower until it began to crumble. Save me! Sun Qian looked at Zhao Ming, and her eyes revealed a trace of hope and supplication. Save me! Bastard! At this moment, Elder Sun was furious. Just as he was about to make a move, he suddenly suppressed his impulse and roared, "Admit defeat." It was too fast. It was so fast that he, who was in the mountains and seas, could barely react in the spectator area. Su Ming was crippled, Li Shiyun was almost strangled to death, Sun Qian was completely crippled, Xie Hu was on the verge of death, and Wang Chao was the only one who was not seriously injured and had lost an arm. It was too tragic. It was too strong. Su Yu's strength made the soaring cloud powerhouses stand up with solemn expressions. Heaven-cleaving blade. He opened 300 apertures. Was this still a human? This was not a human. Who would open 300 apertures at the Qianjun stage, and it was not a heaven-rank martial skill, a heaven-rank martial skill to strengthen the body, a heaven-rank leg skill, and a heaven-cleaving blade skill. Su Yu had mastered a total of 3 heaven-rank martial skills. Not only that, he also had a godly skill, a very powerful godly skill. Multiple Tier 2 divine runes. How was this Qianjun? How was it still nurturing? At this moment, Su Yu could completely treat it as if he was soaring into the sky. Normally, when a single divine rune soared into the sky, it would only be a main divine rune that had entered Tier 2. The body hadn't been forged with blood essence, so it wasn't as powerful as Su Yu's current strength. A civilized master's body was inferior to a fighter's. Su Yu turned a deaf ear. Admit defeat? You don't have the final say. The instant Zhao Ming saved Sun Qian, Su Yu stomped down, and Zhao Ming directly drew out a divine text. It materialized and instantly landed on Xie Hu's body with a loud boom. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 813. Chapter 813, Chapter 203, Crushing Power. I'll try my best to write more. A real man is not afraid. 3. A resplendent golden light burst out from Xie Hu's body. It was not his own, but Zhao Ming's divine runes protecting him. Ling Yun Realm Powerhouse. This was not something Su Yu could match up to at the moment. He was completely unable to break through his divine runes' defense. Zhao Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. What the f***ck? He had almost lost. This bastard had won too quickly. In the blink of an eye, he had defeated 4 people. These were all experts who could rival the top 10 of the top 100. The 5 of them had joined forces. In less than 10 seconds, 4 people had been defeated. 4 people. Zhao Ming's expression changed. Stop, you've won. He roared. The referee roared. This meant that the battle had ended. At this moment, Su Yu, Wenbing, appeared directly on Wang Chao's neck. A hammer directly smashed down from the top of his head. Wang Chao was completely stunned. He had completely lost consciousness. At this moment, that Wenbing had already cut open his neck, if it was just a little bit more, his entire head would fall off. At this moment, Zhao Ming's furious roar caused Su Yu to stop his actions. Turning his head to look at Zhao Ming, Su Yu smiled. Teacher, I'll give you face. If it was someone else, if the person involved didn't admit defeat, I wouldn't take it seriously. With that said, he withdrew the Wenbing. Wang Chao immediately fainted on the ground, and fresh blood gushed out. He was already extremely weak. As for Xie Hu, he was protected by the golden divine runes, so his injuries weren't too serious. However, at this moment, his eyes were filled with terror and fear. He had lost. He had lost miserably. If Zhao Ming hadn't stopped him, all 5 of them would have been killed within these short 10 seconds. Even so, Xie Hu's grief came from the bottom of his heart. His injuries were the lightest, and he had only broken a divine rune. The heaviest ones were Sun Qian, Wang Chao, and then Li Shiyun and Su Ming. The first 2 were both severely injured in their seas of consciousness, while the latter 2 were mainly injured in their bodies. Crippled. Without a large amount of heavenly and earthly treasures to save them, the 4 of them were completely crippled. Even he, Xie Hu, had been crippled by a divine text. This kind of injury was actually the lightest. If it weren't for Zhao Ming's divine text protecting him, he would have been trampled to death just now. Su Yu laughed. He was very unrestrained. His clothes weren't even broken. They were only stained with some blood. On the other hand, one of his boots was broken. That was because Sun Qian blew a big hole in his head and shattered his boots. With his bare feet, Su Yu simply exploded the other boot. His feet stepped on the blood-red arena, dyeing the soles of his feet red. He looked at Pavilion Master Sun with a gentle smile. Pavilion Master Sun, I hope you can cure them. They are all elites. Don't disappoint them. Without more than 10,000 merit points, it would be difficult to save a few people. More than 10,000 merit points, was it worth it? Was it worth it to save a few people who were recovering from serious injuries? Pavilion Master Sun's face was as cold as ice. At this moment, a person rushed out from the crowd with a gaze that could kill. He looked at Su Yu with flames rising in his eyes. Zhou Pingsheng. Li Shiyun and Sun Qian were both his disciples. Even if he was prepared to give up on these two people, they were still his disciples. They were crippled. Sun Qian was the most severely injured. Li Shiyun's physical body was in tatters. This was just recuperation, not the sun-moon tear. It was too difficult to recover one's physical body. It would consume too much energy. It was more likely that one would be crippled for the rest of their lives. Zhou Pingxing glared at Su Yu. At this moment, he wanted to kill Su Yu at all costs. He had 6 disciples. Xiao Yun and Zhai Feng were still being punished. They had no choice but to go out and exterminate the stronghold of the Myriad clan cult. The other 2 disciples were also crippled today. There were also 2 students who were in the soaring tier. However, they were not in the academy right now. It was silent. Both on and off the stage, it was very quiet at this moment. Lu He and the others were also dumbstruck. They had never expected such an ending. The expressions of some of the students and experts below the stage also changed. The expressions of Zhan Hai, Jiang Mu, Li Minyu, and the others changed one after another. Too strong. Impeccable. Civilized masters had some flaws. The most important one was their physical body. In the end, Su Yu's physical body was even stronger than an ordinary civilized master's sky realm. This was too terrifying. A heaven-rank cultivation technique that tempered the physical body. A total of 300 apertures had been opened. And at this moment, Su Yu seemed as relaxed as ever. Boasting shamelessly. Arrogant. Su Yu, who had defeated the 5 of them in an instant, used his actions to prove everything. He wasn't arrogant, he was a true monster. If this wasn't the arena, all 5 of them would have died. Su Yu had indeed given face to Zhao Ming. If others hadn't said anything, Wang Chao, the last person, would have been dead for sure. That slash had been silent. Even Zhao Ming had neglected the other side because he was trying to save the others. Wang Chao had almost been killed. Su Yu hadn't killed him. This was giving face to Zhao Ming. It was also disgusting to the single divine text faction. Saving, spending money. Not saving, chilling people's hearts. Such serious injuries involved the sea of consciousness. Unless the sun and moon made a move, they could only rely on large amounts of natural treasures to save. Below the stage. Wu Lan stared blankly. After a long while, she turned her head to look at her sister. Sister. He is so powerful. Wu Lan took a deep breath and nodded. Very powerful. He's even stronger than Xia Yuan back then. Xia Yuan might not have been this strong when he was first on the list of top 100. Therefore, if Xia Yuan could sweep through the ranks of 2nd to 10th on the list of top 100, so could Su Yu. As for Su Yu, he had yet to reach the peak at this stage. His physical body had yet to reach 10,000 stones, even though it looked like it might be very difficult to reach. If he opened too many openings, the repulsive force would increase. His willpower had yet to reach the peak. Wu Qi wanted to curse. This was still a human. This was the primitive god race, right? In terms of the low level, which race was the strongest was the primitive god race. If Su Yu was thrown into the primitive god race, he would probably be able to suppress a batch of primitive god race geniuses. Zhan Hai's expression also changed. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 814. Chapter 814, Chapter 203, Crushing the Enemy. I'll try my best to write more. A real man is not afraid, for powerful. Very powerful. This was a freshman who had been in school for a few months. Don't King lie. He felt that his physical body was not as strong as Su Yu's, and his heaven-rank martial skills were not as strong as Su Yu's. His willpower was also very strong, but it was hard to say if he was stronger than Su Yu. His Tier 2 divine runes were not as many as Su Yu's, and he did not know any divine skills. He was thinking, if he met Su Yu, would he be able to win? The only thing that he was stronger than Su Yu was probably the combination of 9 apertures, a total of 108 apertures. His explosive force was slightly stronger than the current Su Yu when he was scattered. The difference was probably not big. Su Yu did not have an aperture, but Su Yu practiced the heaven-cleaving knife, and he had opened up as many as 300 apertures. Closing his aperture, in the end, his explosive speed was a little faster, and he was a little stronger. 108 apertures combined into 9 apertures, and he was also an expert with 12 apertures. When he exploded, it was about 200 apertures, which was his strength. As for other things, he did not have any advantage. Su Yu's situation when he used his martial arts would not be inferior to his. On the stage, Su Yu looked at the silence below and Zhou Pingsheng who was staring at him angrily. He smiled and said, "What's wrong? I won. Why is everyone reacting like this? Director Zhou, are you trying to kill me with that look? Come, Director Zhou, how about I stretch my neck for you to kill me?" Zhou Pingsheng could not contain his anger. There was a moment when he wanted to kill Su Yu without caring about anything else. Disaster. Definitely a disaster. This fellow might have a chance of rebelling against Ling Yun once he ascended into the air. Furthermore, his advancement speed was so fast. It was simply inconceivable. Once he successfully ascended into the Sky Realm, would there really be anyone in the Sky Realm who could suppress him? This was even before he formed his divine literature combat technique. The divine literature had never been able to become one. Once he ascended into the sky, what would happen if the divine literature became one? At that time, Su Yu would have an even more powerful trump card, a powerful divine literature battle technique. The key was that if he won, he could enter the Sea of Consciousness arcane realm. At this moment, Zhou Pingsheng was somewhat terrified. Su Yu absolutely could not enter the Sea of Consciousness arcane realm. That bastard Lu Hong had underestimated him. He absolutely could not let Su Yu's willpower advance successfully. At that time, Su Yu would cast his physical body again, and his physical body would be stronger than ordinary fighters. What kind of civilized master was he? Zhou Pingsheng gritted his teeth. In the next moment, he suddenly shouted sharply, "Defeat Su Yu and I'll reward you with a high-grade profound rank civil servant." Su Yu said faintly, "If you play like this, I'll continue to admit defeat." Zhou Pingsheng was stunned. In the next moment, his face turned red and he almost vomited blood. Shameless. He had no choice but to add, "Defeat him in the next battle. If Su Yu loses, I guarantee that I'll reward you with a high-grade profound rank civil servant." This thing was something that even those in the Lingyun realm could not afford. Zhou Pingsheng looked at Zhan Hai and looked at the strong team formed by a few veteran students in the crowd. Only they had hope. If he did not allow Su Yu to enter the Sea of Consciousness mystical realm, even if he was extremely humiliated now, even if he had to pay the price of a profound rank literary soldier, he could not give Su Yu the chance to win 3 rounds. With such a powerful Su Yu, who would still dare to challenge him? Su Yu smiled faintly and said, "1 is not enough, 5 people are not enough to share. Spending 1 literature soldier in exchange for 5 people being crippled, and they are all genius powerhouses, too little. Head Zhou, if you have money, don't bother with literature soldiers. Just spend 10,000 merit points. Maybe someone will be tempted." At this moment, even Elder Sun did not stop Zhou Pingsheng. Su Yu was too powerful too quickly. Their final team was easily crippled by him. Such a person, spending 10,000 merit points was worth it. Su Yu had to be dealt with. Otherwise, even if he was in the air, who could suppress him? Zhou Pingsheng gritted his teeth and roared, 10,000 merit points to defeat Su Yu. Suyu smiled and said, add another prefix and defeat me in the next round. Otherwise, I admit defeat. What if you renege on your promise again? I will admit defeat at any time. Zhou Pingsheng was furious and anxious. He did not want to reply at all. Suyu said playfully, how about this, I won't fight anymore. You give me 10,000 merit points, and we will have the best of both worlds, how about that? Bastard! Zhou Pingsheng was furious. Suyu had a look of playfulness on his face, how is it a bastard? Your goal is for me to lose, and I won't fight anymore. Isn't it just right for you to give me 10,000 merit points? It's to prevent others from going up on stage. I'm a new student, and I don't know how to control my strength. Defeating a few geniuses isn't something that 10,000 merit points can make up for. No one in the audience made a sound. For 10,000 merit points, he was willing to gamble the futures of 5 people. Even if Zhan Hai was willing, the 4 people in his team wouldn't agree to it. You, Zhan Hai, have the confidence to protect yourself, but they don't. To get 2,000 merit points and cripple himself, who would be willing? Those who could enter the Institute of Civilization, who didn't seek to soar in the sky. Just for 2,000 merit points, they would sell their futures. Perhaps it wouldn't be enough to pay for the medicine. Suyu laughed again. This is the strength of a civilized master. Cultivation techniques, secret techniques, martial techniques, these things, how can one learn without researching? At this moment, Zhou Pingsheng seemed to have thought of something. He said sharply, you are a member of the myriad races. Other than the heaven-cleaving blade, where did you learn the other heaven-rank cultivation techniques? When these words were said, many people looked at Suyu. Yes, where did Suyu get so many heaven-rank cultivation techniques? Suyu smiled and said, why should I tell you? I obtained the inheritance myself, and even researched it myself. What else can you do to me? It's not like it's a private inheritance, stealing a cultivation technique in private. Do you have the right to ask me how I got it? You should find a source to prove that I stole the cultivation technique inheritance. Then I'll tell you how I got it. Suyu laughed and said, this is the single divine language branch. Because I'm powerful, I'm a member of the myriad races. This accusation is too big. I even said that you're a member of the myriad races. Otherwise, why would you suppress the genius students of the academy? What are your intentions? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 8:15. Chapter 8:15, Chapter 203, Defeat. I'll try my best to write more, a real man is not afraid. 5. The last sentence was shouted out by Suyu. The Battle of Dan Duo is still under the control of the great Xia family. Why are you slandering me as a member of the religion of 10,000 races? Why are you coveting the inheritance that the students obtained in private? Who in the entire human realm doesn't have any inheritance? Don't tell me all of them have to be made public to you. How dare you? Suyu roared, his voice reverberating throughout the entire arena. He looked at Elder Huang and said loudly, Director Huang, coveting the inheritance of the students and slandering the students for defecting to the enemy. Is this what the deputy director of the library pavilion of the Great Xia Civilization Academy should say? Zhou Pingsheng said angrily, slandering. I'm just doubting. You have an ordinary background and come from the southern Yuan. Where did you get the inheritance? Who can guarantee that you are not someone planted by the Myriad Clan Church? Suyu said faintly, more than 300 years ago, those invincible people rose to power with ordinary backgrounds. Are they also from the Myriad Clan sect? You bastard, you're confusing the public. Suyu, if you don't tell us the origin of the cultivation technique, you might be from the Myriad Clan sect. At this moment, Zhou Pingsheng was going all out. His 4 disciples had all been crippled. His reputation was now in tatters, and the people in his own sect did not like him. If he did not take Suyu down, he would not be able to establish himself at all. Suyu smiled and said, "Source. It's very simple. My grandmaster gave it to me. Is it enough? As for how it came about, you can ask my grandmaster. What do you think?" You. Zhou Pingsheng was furious. At this moment, someone laughed and said, "I passed it down. What's wrong? Is it very rare that I have some cultivation technique?" Zhou Pingsheng, I suspect that you were not born from your mother. You have to prove to me that you were born from your mother. Otherwise, I suspect that you are the illegitimate child of Zhou Mingren and the fire dolphin race. These words shocked everyone. Holy shit! How dare he say such words? Who was it? In the next moment, many people looked at the old man who had just arrived. Hong Tan. Hong Tan bent his back, he chuckled and said, "Prove it. Otherwise, I suspect that you are a descendant of the 10,000 races, a descendant of the fire dolphin race. Hurry up. And Zhou Mingren, prove to me that he did not have sex with the fire dolphin and did not give birth to you. If you can't prove it, I will kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, an aura that was half a step away from the sun and moon came pressing over. In the distance, in the heart cultivation pavilion area, a powerful aura rose up. Hong Tan was unconcerned and said with a smile, "Principal, I suspect that the descendants of the myriad races have infiltrated the academy and are interrogating the facts. If there is no evidence to prove that he is not, I will kill him." Hong Tan's aura exploded and he said coldly, "Since when did the academy start to be innocent and guilty? Since that's the case, don't blame me for not following the rules." In the distance, in the heart cultivation pavilion area. After a moment of silence, Wan Tianqing's voice slowly sounded, "Don't go overboard. You've provoked my bottom line again and again. The rules are the last resort to bind me, you, and many others. If you're not willing to follow the rules, I'm willing to fulfill your wish." At this moment, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Zhou Pingsheng felt as if his liver was about to explode. At this moment, he felt an incomparably crazy killing intent surging within his sea of consciousness, nearly destroying his sea of consciousness. Pooh! A mouthful of blood spurted out, and Hong Tan's eyelids twitched as well. He hurriedly smiled and said, "I was joking. Why would I kill someone? I'm an honest person, and this fellow is finding trouble for himself. Manor head, I'm going back. I remember now that I haven't cleaned up yet." With a crash, the void shattered and he directly fled through the air. At this moment, Elder Huang, Elder Sun, and the others stood up one after another and looked at the heart cultivation pavilion. Wan Tianqing said faintly, "This is the final warning. The rules are not meant to be broken. Zhou Pingsheng, the students' belongings belong to the students. What's yours is yours. Don't meddle recklessly. Unless you can prove that Suyu has secretly learned some cultivation techniques that are not allowed to be passed down, otherwise, if there's a next time, I'll send you to the demonic domain to explore. Pingsheng, remember this." Zhou Pingsheng roared loudly. His face was deathly pale, and there was a hint of fear in it. In that instant just now, he felt that he was already dead. The principal was even more terrifying than he had imagined. On the stage, Suyu had his head lowered as well, keeping a low profile. Damn it, he had actually provoked Lao Wan. This person, if he were to really punish him, he might end up in trouble as well. It was better to keep a low profile. What a terrifying killing intent. He could feel a trace of it on his side, and his willpower almost wavered. His own grandmaster came and scared him away with just a bubble. It could be seen how powerful the 10,000 heavenly saints was. P.S. I don't think I can finish writing today. Cough cough, I'll continue to work hard. Tonight, I'll try to add another chapter. I must fulfill the promise of a man. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 8:16. Chapter 8:16, Chapter 204, Winning the Championship, Double Monthly Ticket, Double After 12 Points, 1. Tianqing's imposing manner was quickly retracted. Everything was just like when he suppressed Jing Yuming that day. Nothing had happened. He didn't care about the battle between the students. He didn't care how they fought or how they fought. He was too lazy to interfere in the rules. However, it had touched his bottom line. Tianqing's fearsomeness was absolutely beyond everyone's imagination. In the crowd, Chen Yong looked over there, speechless for a long time. He was thinking, if he were to kill Zhou Pingsheng, would he be able to escape from his pursuit? Most likely. There was no hope at all. His master was half a step into the sun and moon. In fact, he wasn't any weaker than some fellows who had just entered the sun and moon. At this moment, he was also fleeing through the air, unwilling to face him head-on. It could be seen that his master didn't have any confidence either. Everything fell silent. Zhou Pingsheng did not speak anymore. The few students were brought down by someone. 10 students went up to the stage, and 10 of them were crippled. The injuries of the few people in the first round were slightly lighter, but the few people in the second round were almost all crippled. Suyu waited for the 10,000 heavenly Sainsora to withdraw before he smiled again and said, "The second battle has ended. Let's have another team." No one made a sound. Lu Hong's eyes flickered. Suyu's strength was beyond imagination. Based on this situation, could this fellow fight against the top 100 rankers? Lu Hong didn't say anything else. At this moment, he was also keeping a low profile. He shouted, "Everyone else, continue. It's not like there's only one arena. On Suyu's side, those who are willing to challenge, continue to go up." No one paid any attention to him. On the other side, Zhan Hai glanced at Suyu, took a deep breath, and directly went up to another arena. Jiang Mu, Li Minyu, and the other top 10 experts also did the same. They each occupied one arena. The confident teams each occupied a stage, and the defensive battle began. Seeing this, Suyu couldn't help but laugh. At this moment, he was also unhurried. He looked at the others and said, "I want to apply for the Research Institute to recruit talents. Of course, I need friends who share the same interests. I won't recruit too many people in the beginning. Everyone can consider it. In addition, if you are afraid of being retaliated, then don't come. There's no need for students from the Divine Literature Department to come. If you're not a spy, you'll be suppressed for revenge. There's no need to hurt yourself." Suyu began to advertise. He chuckled and said, "As long as the purpose of this research institute is to study the cultivation techniques of the 10,000 races and decode the civilization of the 10,000 races. In addition, it involves the knowledge of divine literature, and soldiers. I won't dabble in other things for the time being. As for my main topic, I want to say something without shame. I want to try and see if I can develop some cultivation techniques that are targeted at the 10,000 races. My main goal is to develop some of the 10,000 races." He spoke with confidence. Although there was no response from the audience, Suyu did not care. Establish a research institute. This was the space that he was prepared to release for his album. There were some things that could be passed on to others, and some things that could not be passed on to others. As for the Wen-Tan Research Center, they were researching divine runes and innate blood essence. Who would believe that you could come up with a cultivation method every day? 1 or 2 articles was fine, but who would believe a whole bunch? He would also take the opportunity to see if he could rope in a group of genius students. Yes, the research center was only prepared to recruit geniuses. As for non-geniuses, forget it, doing research in this area was not a genius. Even if you said it, they might not understand. It was not just talent in martial arts. It was mainly in other areas. For example, language experts, experts in the exploration of civilization. At the side, Zhou Hao suddenly said, "You're too strong. Too strong." It seemed like there was no place for him to use anymore. Suyu smiled and said, "You're thinking too much. This is only the second round." Would Zhan Hai and the others give up? They would not. They weren't willing to fight with Suyu right now. It was just letting others off easy. If they really wanted to give up, they wouldn't fight anymore. Zhan Hai and the others weren't like the group of people from before. They were a group of old people who had long lost their spirit. Suyu was speaking with assurance. In the viewing area, a group of researchers from the single divine language department remained silent. They had failed. A group of people actually couldn't obstruct a single Suyu. Not only that, it made Suyu use this as a stepping stone to prove to the entire academy his strength, his genius, and his evildoer. Pavilion Master Sun had set up a soundproof array, Yu Hong had rushed over, and Pavilion Master Li had also arrived. Zhou Mingren didn't come. The three Pavilion Masters were silent. A nurturing student had slapped them in the face time and time again. The many divine languages department had been dormant for so many years, but now they were constantly fighting back. Once they fought back, they were actually powerless to resist. Pavilion Master Sun looked coldly at Zhou Pingsheng, then at Lu Hong. Lu Hong looked helpless. I wanted the other four to hold him back. Who knew he was so strong? This was very helpless. Don't look at me. He didn't win in a team battle, but a 1-on-5. It wasn't a 1-on-1, but a 1-on-5. He won. Not only did he win, but he also won easily. Pavilion Master Sun suppressed the anger in his heart. You can't be blamed. Indeed, Lu Hong could not be blamed for this matter. There was no point in venting his anger. If he really wanted to vent his anger, he would have to vent his anger on that idiot Zhou Pingsheng. Pingsheng, did you provide Suyu with the starting capital? When he said this, Zhou Pingsheng's expression changed and he looked a little ugly. He said in a low voice, I asked a few pavilion masters that day, and they all agreed. Also, junior brother Lu was there. He knows the situation. Lu Hong said dryly, yes, pavilion elder son, this matter, we really didn't expect Suyu to be so treacherous. That day, there were still people from the Xia family and many other factions. No one noticed anything unusual. He had to speak up for Zhou Pingsheng. This matter couldn't be investigated further, or else he would be in trouble. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 817. Chapter 817, Chapter 204, Winning the Championship, Double Monthly Votes, Double after 12 points, 2. Is that so? Elder Son said coldly, is that really 100,000 merit points? He looked at Lu Hong. Lu Hong, you tell it. Lu Hong cursed in his heart. F***CK. Why are you asking me at this time? I did. Didn't I offend Zhou Pingsheng and Zhou Mingren to death? Why did Pavilion Master Sun insist on dragging me down? What time is it now? Zhou Pingsheng's face was gloomy and he didn't say anything. Lu Hong said awkwardly, this, that. Pavilion Master Sun, we can talk about these things later. The most important thing now is not to give Suyu a spot. Lu Hong said hurriedly, there's a change in the previous strategy. He's so strong. If we let him advance to the sky, that would be a big problem. Elder Son did not say anything. Yu Hong said coldly, who's going to stop him? Zhan Hai and the others? Can they stop him successfully? There's still hope. After all, Suyu is alone. No matter how strong he is, he's only one person. Lu Hong hurriedly said, if it really can't be done. How about this? When we enter the arcane realm, we'll surround Su Yu with a large number of experts safely. We won't let him absorb willpower and shake the willpower of all directions. If he can't absorb it, what else can he do? When these words were said, the few of them nodded slightly. It was very likely that Su Yu would obtain a spot. They had to guard against it. Since that was the case, they couldn't attack the students. The best way was to have a few experts surround him and absorb the willpower in the vicinity, not giving Su Yu a chance. When Lu Hong saw this, he said, in addition, Su Yu wants to build a research center. This. Elder son, do you think the academy will directly reject it? From the looks of it, Su Yu wasn't a crazy person. No one knew what he wanted to do, so it was better to be safe than sorry. Elder son didn't say anything. This was a slap to his face. He didn't really want to do it. Moreover, he was only giving the other party a place. This wasn't a difficult matter, unless he didn't give Su Yu a chance to succeed in his application. Elder son said in a low voice, we'll discuss it later. As for whether the merit points just now were 100,000 or not, Lu Hong evaded and did not answer. Everyone else knew that there was a problem. It was definitely not 100,000 merit points. Zhou Pingsheng, this trash, not only provided Su Yu with a large number of merit points, but he also pocketed a large number of merit points. Pavilion Master Sun and the others really wanted to kill him. If he could not accomplish anything, he could do more harm than good. As Pavilion Master Sun spoke, he warned, Zhou Pingsheng, don't cause us any more trouble. If you dare to act recklessly in the academy, then scram to the heavenly battlefield. He had once again angered the 10,000 heavenly saints. Even he felt a chill in his heart, and the 10,000 heavenly saints flew into a rage today. The principal of the academy had probably really gone crazy. Zhou Pingsheng lowered his head and didn't say a word. Vent his anger. He knew that he was now their punching bag. These people wouldn't admit to the mistakes they had made. They would only blame everything on him. Was he the one who had controlled the suppression of Wuxia and dealt with Qin Yong? This was the big strategy of the single god text department. In the end, it seemed like he was the one who wanted to be the curator, even though he had the same thoughts. If they did not agree to buy the materials, could he get the merit points to buy them? Did he ask them to organize this competition? Was he the one who suggested to deal with Su Yu in the competition? No. In the end, all the blame was on him. Were these people not at fault? Against Hong Tan, Lu Wenyan, and the others, he suffered a crushing defeat. It was precisely because of this that the multi-god literature department emerged. Otherwise, if he suppressed Hong Tan and the others, what kind of storm would Su Yu cause? They were discussing and blaming each other. At this moment, Su Yu was leisurely recovering his vitality. He had expended quite a lot of energy just now. Don't look at how he ended the battle in an instant, he was giving it his all. There was still a huge battle to come. He said that he didn't want the quota, don't tease me. I've been fighting for a long time, and all I want is the quota. Senior Lu, Senior Yang, Brother Lin. Next, we still have a chance of getting the quota. Once these words were said, Yang Sha couldn't help but look at Lin Yao. What was going on? Previously, Lin Yao had said that there was a chance of getting the quota this time, but in the end, there was really hope. Su Yu smiled and said, previously, it wasn't easy for you guys to make a move. Now that you don't make a move, the quota has already been given to outsiders. Do you guys want to go and ask your big brother teacher or elder son and the others if they want to make a move? If you make a move, you can at least take back 3 divine inscriptions. Once these words were said, the expressions of the few of them changed again. Su Yu suddenly shouted, Elder son, why don't you let Lu He and the others cooperate with me? If I take the quota, you guys can at least take back 3. No, Zhou Hao counts 2. You can take back 4 of them. If you don't give them to me, you must give them to others. You can't take back 1 of them. Su Yu laughed and said, as for me, even if I really don't have the quota, it doesn't mean much. At the very least, I've left a few seeds for your single divine language department. Now, only these few have some hope. The others are either crippled or deprived of all their rights. Are you not going to let the new students in this time? Elder Sun dispersed the soundproof array with an ugly expression on his face. What he said. He felt that it made sense. It was the truth. Another 10 people were crippled. Zhai Feng and the others were restricted from entering the mystic realm previously. How many geniuses were left in the divine language department? How many students could enter the top 100? However, he could not be bothered with Su Yu. Even if Lu He and the others did not win, they might give Lu He a chance this time. Now that Zhai Feng, Qiu Yun, and Huang Qifeng could not enter, and Guo Xingquan had joined a third party, Lu He was the one with the highest ranking. He might even have a chance to become a student under the age of 30, it was ridiculous. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 818. Chapter 818, Chapter 204, Winning the Championship, Double Monthly Pass, Double after 12 points, 3. He felt a little stifled in his heart. The mighty mountains and seas had actually been teased by a student. Su Yu had them take the initiative to ask Lu He and the others to contribute. How could that be possible? As Su Yu recovered, he smiled and said, "Elder Sun, be a little more magnanimous. Think about it. To be honest, I might have been able to get it by myself, but if I had gotten it, then it would mean that your single divine prose department is really useless. Senior Lu and the others have contributed, so at least they can give you a piece of cover. Really, speaking of which, it can be said that it's all thanks to the seniors." Su Yu smiled and said, "I don't mind giving up this credit. It's all thanks to the seniors' help that I got the spot. I'll thank you all." Elder Sun looked at him coldly. Yu Hong even snorted coldly and said, "Sharp-tongued people." Su Yu raised his eyebrows and smiled, "Thank you for your praise. I'm serious. If you don't consider it, then forget it." Su Yu sighed, he said loudly, "Today, I brought a few senior students from the single divine language department to fight for the quota. I'm grateful to the single divine language department for giving me this opportunity. It doesn't matter if I lose. Does the 10,000 merit points that Director Zhou promised before still count? Forget it if it doesn't count. After all, it's not the first time I went back on my word." Zhou Pingsheng looked at him coldly. Su Yu smiled and said, "Still count." On the other side, someone jeered, "Does it count? If it counts, I might even win." Zheng Yunhui. This guy wasn't afraid of death. He was the leader of the jeers. On the other side, Wu Jia also said loudly, "If it's counted, I'll hit my junior brother too. Who knows, I might even be able to earn some merit points." Zhou Pingsheng's heart was boiling with anger. Damn it! He was a level 7 Lingyun expert and the deputy head of the library. Today, he had become the laughingstock of everyone. A bunch of juniors actually dared to humiliate him in public. Damn it! He deserved to be killed. After taking a deep look at Su Yu, he did not stay any longer. If he stayed any longer, he was afraid that he would explode. He stood up and turned around to leave. Su Yu, on the other hand, continued to speak loudly, "Elders, Elder Huang, does what he said count? Give me a clear answer. As an intermediate researcher and deputy head of the library, what he said can't be treated as fart, right?" Elder Sun and the others wanted to ignore him, but Elder Huang thought about it and asked, "Elder Sun, what do you think? Does it count?" He indeed had to give a clear answer. Otherwise, they would have to argue again later. Elder Sun said coldly, "It counts. Of course it counts. Whoever defeated Su Yu. I mean, whoever defeated Su Yu in this divine prose competition counts. 10,000 merit points, they could still afford it. If they really defeated Su Yu and didn't give him a spot, then it was worth it. Otherwise, if they went back on their word, then the entire Divine Prose department really wouldn't have any credibility to speak of. The mistake last time had almost made their department become the public enemy of the academy. Su Yu smiled and said, "That's good, everyone heard it. Everyone is welcome to challenge me. Maybe I'm in a good mood, so I'll just directly admit defeat and give a bit of merit points to me." No one took it seriously. What a joke. Unless he really couldn't get a spot, Su Yu wouldn't give up so easily. Still, no one challenged them. At this moment, the other arenas were also having a good fight. However, there was less excitement and more heaviness. So what if he won? Could he really beat Su Yu and the others? He was too strong. In just one match, he was beaten up by Su Yu's 2 battles. It was only the second round. Many people had the thought of giving up. In this silence, the second round of the competition came to an end. 160 teams had won 3 times. No, there was another exception, Su Yu, who had won 2 times. 160 teams all looked towards Su Yu. According to the rules, he could challenge one team. If he won, he would replace them. If he lost, he would directly step down from the stage. Some of the weaker teams had helpless expressions. Some teams were already riddled with injuries after 3 wins, and they were somewhat unable to continue fighting. The key point was that there were also a few teams formed by the Single Divine One faction. The Single Divine One faction had many people, and there were many participating teams. After several rounds of elimination, many were eliminated. However, there were still people from the Single Divine One faction. These people were all somewhat terrified at this moment. Su Yu was too ruthless towards them. Many top 100 students had been crippled by him. Without a backer or background, healing their injuries was a difficult task. As for Su Yu, he didn't stand on ceremony either. He pointed at a team and smiled, "Do you guys want to admit defeat yourself, or do you want me to go up on stage and beat you until you're on the verge of death before admitting defeat?" Among the team that he pointed at, there was an acquaintance of Su Yu's. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to identify who was from the Single Divine Prose faction. "Senior sister, I let you off last time. This time, you won't want to continue fighting with me, right?" In that team, there was a girl that Su Yu was more familiar with. The last time he fought in the top 100, he had pierced through her chest with a knife. She was very angry and even dared to scold him. She even said that she would not rest until she was dead next time. Su Yu thinks oneself should grant her. Chen Huan's face was livid in the crowd. Last time, Su Yu humiliated her, this time he actually targeted him. "Damn it! Damn it! Damn it!" Was about to bite the teeth on stage, but several people around her are looking at her, a face of resistance and unwilling. They don't want to die. Although Chen Huan is not weak, but also top 100 students, ranking is okay, but Su Yu, too brutal. If they went up, they would not even be in the top 100. If they were beaten to death by Su Yu, the referee might not even be able to stop them. "Senior sister Chen." The few of them looked at her with pleading faces. "Admit defeat." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 819. Chapter 819, Chapter 204, Winning the Championship, Double Monthly Votes, Double After 12 o'clock, 4. They did not want to go on stage. At this moment, the entire stadium was looking at them. When Chen Huan shouted, "Surrender," in frustration, many people sighed. The backbone of the current generation of the Divine One family was broken by Su Yu. It was completely broken. From top to bottom, it was broken by him. A few times, some people were crippled, some were seriously injured, and some were punished. Right now, only the strongest Jai Feng had not fought with him. However, Jai Feng was about the same as the 5 people from before. Fighting with him was just asking for humiliation. As they were thinking about it, Suyu suddenly smiled and said, "It's a pity that senior brother Jai Feng and the rest are not in the academy. Otherwise, I would have taken the time to fight for the top 100 ranking. I wonder if I can raise my ranking by a few ranks." No one answered. Lu Hong went straight up to the stage and ignored him. He said, "The second round has ended. 160 teams have advanced. The third round, draw lots for a duel. 2 against 2. 80 teams have advanced. The fourth round is the same. 40 teams have advanced. 20 teams have advanced in the fifth round. The sixth round will determine the top 10. This time, he did not hold any special battles. This competition had been crippled by Suyu in just 2 battles. If this went on, there were still a few single Divine One teams in the team. If they were to be tormented by Suyu again, it would probably be time for the single Divine One students to cry when the competition ended. The third round, the fourth round, the fifth round. Suyu won without a fight. He easily advanced to the top 20. It was so easy that it was unbelievable. No one dared to fight. It was not just him. Zhan Hai and the other teams also received the same treatment. The gap was too big. If they didn't understand it before, when Suyu defeated Li Shiyan's team and Zhan Hai easily defeated a few old men, everyone understood. This generation's young people were too powerful. They, who couldn't advance before the age of 30, were no match for them. In the sixth round, Suyu drew lots and his opponent was a little surprised. Wuxia's team. They had reached the top 20. In this team, the strongest was Li Minyu. She was ranked 4th in the top 100, 1 place behind Jiang Mu. In addition, there was Wuxia and Lin Qing. They were all students in the top 100. Li Minyu looked at Suyu, then looked at Wuxia and smiled. She said slowly, "It looks like we won't be able to get the rewards for the top 10. Although I really want to fight with you once, but I'm afraid that your senior sister will betray us. That would be meaningless." As she approached the sky, she still really wanted to fight with Suyu once, but today was not the time. "Don't you want to try?" Suyu smiled and said, "Maybe we can give it a try. After all, I have 4 wooden stakes here." Li Minyu smiled and said, "Forget it, I'll leave the opportunity to Zhan Hai. I hope that you guys won't meet soon. Actually, I'd rather see you guys meet in the finals. That way, it'll be more interesting." Suyu smiled and said, "If we meet, it'll be the finals." It sounded simple, but it was overbearing. If they met, it would be the finals. After defeating Zhan Hai, Suyu didn't seem to take the other teams to heart. The top 100 player indeed had some outstanding points. At the very least, those old students were all said to be similar to Zhan Hai. Suyu couldn't tell that Zhan Hai had also encountered a relatively strong team of old students. In the end, he easily defeated them. Li Minyu smiled and said, "That might not be the case. Over there. There's another team of students from the myriad races. Do you see it?" "I see it." Suyu nodded and smiled at the group of cloaked students with a friendly expression. Team of students from the myriad races. It should be a special team. This team was made up of students from the myriad races. With 5 people in one team, it should be a special team. It was hard to say how strong the other party was. In any case, the other party didn't seem to have used his full strength, so the other party easily reached the top 20. Suyu was interested in testing their strength. It was a pity that he hadn't met them yet. Li Minyu chose to admit defeat and stop fighting. Suyu easily entered the top 10. Very soon, the other teams had their results as well. Zhan Hai, Jiang Mu, and the 10,000 clan student teams all entered the top 10. The other 6 teams also had strong students overseeing them. Their strength was very strong, and they were all close to the level of soaring in the sky. Before Su Yu could say anything, Zhang Hai suddenly said, "Su Yu, it's too boring to compete round after round. Why don't we split into 4 teams and whoever breaks through the 4 teams can come and play again?" Zhang Hai was very arrogant at this moment. He felt that it was very boring. He actually wanted to try fighting with Su Yu earlier, but he didn't want to lose his spot. He wanted to beat down the other 8 teams first. Zhang Hai looked at Lu Hong and said, "Teacher Lu, why don't you let us try?" Lu Hong narrowed his eyes at him and then looked at Su Yu. He then looked at the other teams and smiled. The number 1 in the top 100 is confidence. Zhang Hai, are you sure you want to compete like this? Zhang Hai laughed. If Su Yu has no objections, then there's no problem. As for the others, if I give them a chance, don't you think they'll cherish it? If they don't even dare to accept this point after 4 consecutive matches, then don't compete anymore. They won't be given the first place. Su Yu laughed. I have no objections. It's good to save time. It's almost dark. I still have to go back and read. I haven't even finished my homework for today. Both of them were very arrogant. The other teams were a little noisy. In the crowd, someone quickly said in a muffled voice, "Since the 2 of you have said so, we naturally have no objections." As for the order. Before he could finish, Zhang Hai said indifferently, "Up to you. It won't take too much effort anyway." This guy was a little strange at this time. Before, he wasn't so overbearing. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 820. Chapter 820, Chapter 204, Winning the Championship, Double Monthly Votes, Double After 12 Points, 5. Jiang Mu suddenly glanced at him, nodded, and sighed, "Good." He could see it. Zhang Hai was ready to advance. He was ready to finish fighting the others and advance by fighting with Su Yu. This guy didn't plan to compete with Su Yu for the first place in the top 100. If it were him, perhaps, he wouldn't want to either. Jiang Mu sighed in his heart. First place. He hadn't even sat on it yet. If Zhang Hai went down, he would have a good chance. But now, it was hard to say. Lu Hong glanced at Zhang Hai and said with a faint smile, "Good. Zhang Hai, advancing in the arena isn't considered bullying. I have high hopes for you." Zhang Hai ignored him. He had been staring at Su Yu the whole time. As for Su Yu, he had probably guessed his purpose. He smiled and didn't say anything. "Lend me to advance." "Sorry, we'll talk about it later. You should kill Zhou Hao first. Otherwise, I won't be bothered to fight you. It's meaningless." The battle continued. The top 10 teams were indeed very strong. The first team Su Yu encountered was very strong. They did not admit defeat. Their strength was about the same as the previous single god language team. The 5 of them were all strong. However, Su Yu had dealt with the 5 of them easily. It was about the same for the others. After more than a minute, Su Yu finished the battle. Consecutive battles. The second team was Jiang Mu's team. Su Yu had a deeper impression of Jiang Mu than the others because when he entered the academy, he had met him outside the top 100 building. He had met this student who had made an expert of 7 layers of 10,000 stones give way to him. 7 layers of 10,000 stones. Su Yu had defeated many of them now, but in his eyes, he was indeed very strong. Jiang Mu didn't allow anyone else to participate in the battle, and directly challenged Su Yu. He was indeed very strong. He also had a Tier 2 divine inscription. After fighting for more than 3 minutes, Su Yu was able to defeat his opponent with a mountain-shattering sea. Jiang Mu retreated and immediately left the stage. He didn't continue fighting, as his strength was still there. However, at this moment, he didn't want to waste too much of Su Yu's energy. It was meaningless. He was indeed slightly inferior to Su Yu. If he continued fighting, he might heavily injure Su Yu, but he wanted to see Su Yu go all out to fight against Zhang Hai. Su Yu really wanted to fight with a few myriad clan students, but unfortunately, the other party was assigned to Zhang Hai's side. The next two teams were strong, but there was a limit to how strong they were. They were easily defeated by Su Yu. When Su Yu easily defeated Team 4, Zhang Hai did not let his teammate make a move. With his strength alone, he forcefully defeated 4 teams. When Su Yu looked at him, Zhang Hai sent a cloaked student flying with a punch. Zhang Hai glanced at the few of them and said coldly, "Hiding your head and showing your tail, it's boring. If you don't want to go all out next time, there's no need to participate in such a competition." Among the 5 cloaked people, someone laughed lightly and said, "Senior Zhang is very powerful. Even if we return to our original form and go all out, we might not necessarily win. Student Su is also very powerful and doesn't use up much energy. I would like to see Senior Zhang and Student Su fight at their peak." Zhang Hai snorted coldly. He didn't have a good impression of the students from the myriad races. He could feel that these people were very strong, but they didn't go all out. Their innate skills were useless. He wasn't interested in talking to these guys who were hiding their heads and showing their tails. Zhang Hai looked at Su Yu and didn't look at the others. He said indifferently, "Why don't we fight to see who wins and who loses? The others don't need to participate in the battle." Su Yu smiled and said, "Forget it. Look at your teammates. It's not easy for them to fight to this extent, and you're asking them not to participate in the battle. You're too disrespectful. Senior brother Zhang, this isn't you and me fighting for the top 100 spots, but the Sea of Consciousness mystical realm spots." As soon as these words came out, the eyes of Zhang Hai's teammates changed. It was a look of gratitude. That's right. This wasn't a battle for the top 100, a one-on-one battle. This was a battle for the quota of the Sea of Consciousness mystical realm. Since you can fight 5 to 1, why must you fight 1-on-1? Aren't you sick? You, Zhang Hai, don't care about the quota, but we care a lot. As for bullying the weak with numbers, that's the rule. Who asked Su Yu's teammates to be so weak? In the top 100 arena, you guys can fight however you want. At this moment, the way the 4 of them looked at Su Yu changed. He was practically a bosom friend. A good person. Junior brother Su Yu still felt sorry for him. Su Yu laughed in his heart. "I'm sorry. Later on, you guys, get ready to be quickly defeated by me. Zhang Hai's teammates are just so. He glanced at Zhou Hao out of the corner of his eye and left Zhang Hai to you. You've been a wooden stake for a whole day. If you don't put in some effort, you won't get the spot for nothing." Zhou Hao didn't say anything. He was eager to give it a try. He also liked to rely on himself to get things that belonged to him. Zhang Hai was close to soaring into the air. He was very strong. But, I'm not afraid. The final battle. Both teams walked onto the stage once again. Su Yu gently exhaled, a little absent-minded. On the first day of school, he had thought that he could replace Lin Qing and become the top 100. Now, the time had come too quickly. A genius like me is indeed powerful. Zhang Hai. Su Yu smiled and suddenly thought of someone. I didn't seem to have hit Lin Qing. It's a pity. It's a pity that I wanted to beat Lin Qing back then to defend the entrance to the top 100 and earn some merit points. This battle was once again presided over by Zhao Ming himself as the referee. Looking at both sides, Zhao Ming said unhappily, "I'm warning you, don't kill anyone. Did you know how embarrassing it was just now? I almost died." Su Yu smiled and said, "I won't. Teacher, don't worry. Don't worry my ass. I won't be worried about you. You're not a good person. Begin. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Yu leaped into the air. Zhan Hai was also extremely fast. He was used to every battle, and Su Yu was the only one. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 821. Chapter 821, Chapter 204, Winning the Championship, Double Monthly Ticket, Double after 12 points, 6. Therefore, his target was only Su Yu. However, at this moment, an extremely intense yuan qi suddenly exploded beside him. Zhou Hao did not make a sound, like a hunter. A punch was thrown out. Extremely powerful. His qi and blood exploded as yuan qi exploded. The 144 acupuncture points flickered with a resplendent light as a punch was thrown out. Zhan Hai did not expect him to attack. He was somewhat surprised as he kicked with his side leg. However, Zhou Hao did not have any thoughts of retreating. He even took the initiative to move his head forward as he bent his body and threw another punch. Zhan Hai was slightly stunned as a literary weapon appeared in a flash. A sword appeared. The side kick from before had avoided his head. If he avoided it, Zhou Hao would not. He was betting that Zhan Hai would not dare to kill. Cultivators who didn't dare to kill were trash, and deserved to be killed. A loud bang rang out. Zhan Hai's leg was hit by a punch, and he was sent flying back several meters, his pants instantly turning blood red. Zhan Hai frowned. He couldn't care less about Su Yu. Zhou Hao was much stronger than he had imagined. This guy had gone crazy, actually attacking him. He had wanted to use all his strength to deal with Su Yu, preparing to take the opportunity to advance. At the same time that Zhou Hao struck him, his arm was slashed by a long sword, causing blood to flow profusely. Zhou Hao did not mind it at all. He pounced forward, his killing intent boiling. Kill! With a stern shout, Zhan Hai's mind trembled slightly. He instantly regained consciousness as his willpower burst forth, charging at Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao's body froze as his lifeblood burst forth. His yuan qi exploded as a mouthful of blood spewed out from his mouth. This fellow had directly bitten off half of his tongue. With a furious roar, he regained consciousness and instantly pounced on Zhan Hai. It was as though a ferocious beast had come out of its cage. The baleful aura and bloody smell that pounced on Zhan Hai made him feel slightly nauseous. This fellow. What situation was this? The instant he was distracted, a bone-piercing chill came from behind him. F***ck. Zhan Hai cursed in his heart. He did not want to surround and attack Su Yu, but Su Yu was surrounding and attacking him. That's right. At this instant, Su Yu had actually kicked the other four out of the arena's range. The change was too fast. Before the people below the stage could react, they saw two fierce beasts surrounding and killing Zhan Hai. Yes, two fierce beasts. Su Yu and Zhou Hao fought. The scene was bloody and extremely shocking. At this moment, the two of them joining hands was like a hungry wolf hunting. One at the front and one at the back. Although the two of them had never cooperated before, they were extremely well coordinated at this moment. Zhan Hai had just attacked Su Yu from the side when his waist received a yuan qi attack from Zhou Hao. It was as if 1,000 mountains were pressing down on him, and his killing intent froze in the air. Zhan Hai roared angrily as his willpower erupted. In the end, Su Yu's hammer struck at him. He was just feeling a little dizzy when Zhou Hao's palm formed a claw. With a swipe, his flesh and blood were sent flying. The two of them were too savage. Zhan Hai was intimidated by the two's killing intent. His willpower was immediately struck by Su Yu's small hammer. After a few strikes, Zhan Hai was indeed extremely powerful. He did not faint, nor did he faint. However, he was still bleeding from his 7 orifices. At this moment, what advancement into the sky? Stop fooling around. He simply couldn't focus on one person. He couldn't fight one person alone. Zhou Hao was only 1,000 pounds. However, this fellow was really too crazy. He didn't care about his life at all. He traded injuries for injuries. If Shanhai wasn't careful, a bloody wound would appear on his body. The people below the stage were all dumbfounded. This was still Shanhai. Shanhai wasn't that weak. However, Shanhai's killing intent wasn't strong. He was surrounded by two humanoid vicious beasts, and their coordination was perfect. Every move he made was to trade injuries for injuries, and life for life. This kind of fighting style was too hurtful. Right at this moment, Shanhai was also enraged. He slapped Zhou Hao until he spat out blood, and his bones broke. He was just about to turn around to deal with Suyu, but his arm was in severe pain. Zhou Hao was like a water snake, directly wrapping around his body. He bit down on his arm, and blood splattered everywhere. At this moment, Zhou Hao was no different from a ferocious beast, but his eyes were clear. When he saw Shanhai turn around, he didn't even think before he bumped into him. With a bang, his head was cut open and blood flowed out. Blood splattered everywhere. Shanhai was a little crazy. He struck his head hard, causing Zhou Hao's nose to explode. However, he grinned and bit down hard again. You! Shanhai was furious. His long sword fell straight down, wanting to kill him directly. At this moment, a chill ran down his neck. Puchi! A short knife swept across his neck. Puchi! Blood splattered everywhere. Shanhai was extremely furious. At this moment, Zhao Ming suddenly made a move. He grabbed Zhou Hao and dragged him away from Shanhai's body. Before he left, Zhou Hao was still biting a piece of flesh. Shanhai's arm was in extreme pain. His long sword missed, but he didn't have time to change his move. With a bang, an intense pain came from his back. With a boom, he fell to the ground and fell off the stage. At this moment, Shanhai's expression was extremely ugly. He glanced at Zhou Hao, who was still grinning from the side, and then turned to look at Suyu. Suyu's expression was calm as he smiled and said, "If it's not the top 100, I won't play with senior brother anymore." Shanhai felt bitter in his heart. He was beaten down just like that. F***ck. He met two lunatics. He didn't even have a way to deal with them. Not only did he not win, there were more than a dozen wounds on his body that were so deep that his bones could be seen. More importantly, 2 pieces of flesh on his arm had been bitten off by that madman Zhou Hao. His true strength was not like that. He even wanted to borrow Suyu's strength to directly advance into the sky. He had not even displayed his true strength. He wanted to kill someone right now. He was furious. He was too unwilling to lose this way. Turning his head to look at Zhou Hao, Shanhai felt a little helpless when he saw this madman laughing. He was truly a madman. Both of them were. The baleful aura that assaulted his face just now made his heart turn cold. Forget about Zhou Hao, how could Suyu have such a dense baleful aura? Zhou Hao came from the no man's land and the demon beast gathering area. He had heard of him before. The crux of the matter was that Suyu's baleful aura was also extremely dense. The aura that he felt was the aura of death. He had lost this battle inexplicably. Zhou Hao, this madman, had not made a move all this while. It was too unexpected for him to suddenly fight to the death with him. On and off the stage, everyone was somewhat at a loss. In the final battle, they had thought that Suyu and Shanhai would be the sole show and might even be able to contend for the first place in the top 100. In the end, it was ruined by Zhou Hao. 1,000 June stage fighter. Shanhai had been greatly disturbed by Zhou Hao. Even though he had severely injured Zhou Hao, he still lost. The other people who had lost felt somewhat aggrieved. What a miserable person. Jiang Mu and the others felt sympathetic and wanted to laugh. If it were anyone else, they would also feel aggrieved. Zhang Hai's advancement plan had been directly broken. He didn't even have the mood to concentrate on the battle. How could he advance? If he really advanced, he might also be ruined by these two. With two distractions, there was almost no chance of success in advancing like this. On the other side, Lu Hong also had a speechless expression. He won just like that. He had a feeling that the single Divine One faction didn't get anything out of this competition. He had thought that Suyu had a chance of winning, but that was under the circumstance of fighting to the death. Now. F***ck, this guy's injuries were even lighter than Zhou Hao's. This didn't meet his expectations. If this was the case, he would be questioned in the single Divine One faction. He couldn't even injure Suyu. He gave away 5 spots for nothing. Lu Hong could already feel the gazes of Pavilion Master Sun and the others. Cold gleams were piercing his back. This guy is too strong. He's also making things very troublesome for me. Lu Hong felt bitter in his heart. I'm going to be in trouble. Your F***king slightly injured. It's fine to let the Pavilion Masters be happy. If you had known earlier, you could have just said hello. If you pretended to be seriously injured, I would have given you some merit points. This is going to be troublesome. In the end, after today's battle, the elders did not have any chance of being happy. It was too hurtful. Although he was helpless, seeing that everyone was looking at him, Lu Hong could only say, Team Liu he wins. This is my final stubbornness. P.S. Double monthly votes after 12 o'clock. Everyone vote some monthly votes. In addition, there is no longer a limit of 5 votes for disciples and above. Everyone can vote more. Thank you. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 822. Chapter 822, Chapter 205, A Generation is Worse Than a Generation 1. Team Lu he wins. These words made Suyu want to laugh. Lu He, who was beside him, blushed and was on the verge of collapse. His big brother actually said that his team won. At this moment, he wished he could crawl into a hole in the ground. It was too embarrassing. From morning to night, the competition went on for a whole day. Other than being the background, he didn't do anything else. Was he embarrassed? Did he have any face? Lu Hong was thick-skinned and didn't care about this. He directly announced the news. Very quickly, he said, the first team has obtained 5 spots in the Sea of Consciousness realm. The rewards for the other teams will be distributed very soon. Don't be discouraged if the team doesn't get into the top 10. The team that performed well this time will also get some rewards. Lu Hong said with a smile, for those who perform well this time, if they don't have a teacher, even if they are over the age of 30, the researchers of the Academy of Divine Literature will still take in a batch of students as they see fit. Once these words were said, there was a clamor below the stage. Taking in students at this time? Did the Divine Literature Department feel that they didn't have enough people, or did they want to use them as cannon fodder? Pavilion Master Sun and the others didn't say anything. Clearly, this wasn't Lu Hong's decision on his own, but the decisions of the Pavilion Masters. Even though they might become cannon fodder, these words still attracted the attention of many people. Someone below the stage immediately said, Teacher Lu, do you have any requests? This will depend on the researchers themselves. Lu Hong smiled and said, the main reason for accepting a disciple is because of fate. This was bullshit. If your talent was not enough and your strength was not enough, who would look at you? Although they did not know what the conditions were, at this moment, there were still quite a number of people who were tempted. When Lu Hong spoke, Suyu ignored him and had already walked off the stage. He was currently conversing with Chen Yong. When he heard Lu Hong's words, Suyu whispered a few words. Chen Yong frowned slightly. He thought for a moment and nodded slightly. It could be considered that he had agreed. Seeing this, Suyu didn't stand on ceremony. He said loudly, "The polytheistic literature department has been banned, so we can't recruit anyone now. However, the polytheistic literature department is preparing to open an extracurricular tutoring class. To put it bluntly, it's to strengthen our momentum and show that we have the advantage in numbers. If you're interested, you can look for me to sign up." Suyu said loudly, "Our curator Chen, the curator of the Academy's library pavilion, a senior intermediate researcher, is knowledgeable, and has ideas. If you're not afraid of being suppressed by others, you can come and give it a try. Of course, we need to do something small for the multi-god literature department. We won't let you foolishly go up on stage and die. It might be running errands, gathering some materials, collecting some data, and so on." Suyu's voice was very loud, directly suppressing Lu Hong. Lu Hong glanced at him and smiled, not caring at all. Interesting. He was here to pull people's heads. The multi-god literature department had been streamlined for many years, and there were not many people left. At this moment, Suyu was actually helping the multi-god literature department pull people's heads. Was it useful to pull these people over? Suyu did not care about him and continued, "Let's make it clear in advance that we don't have any benefits or merit rewards. Don't enter the tutoring class and say that we actually don't give benefits. Knowledge is priceless. If you're interested, come. If you're not, then forget it. Only those who share the same interests are worthy of us making friends." After he said a few words, someone below the stage hurriedly asked, "Then, do we need to learn more divine literature combat techniques?" Suyu smiled and said, "Then we need to draw more than 10 divine literature before we soar into the sky. Not everyone can do it. I won't lie to everyone. We can do it. After the examination of more divine literature, as long as the problem isn't big, it shouldn't be difficult to pass down the divine literature combat techniques. If you can't do it, then it will delay everyone's advancement to the sky. This is meaningless." Everyone had seen the decline of the multiple divine runes. In fact, the main reason was because the threshold for the multiple divine runes was high. Of course, the high threshold had the advantage of having a high threshold. At the very least, the strength of those of the same level would be stronger. Suyu said loudly, including some of the genius students in the academy. "Even if there are teachers, as long as you feel that you have the hope to draw more than 10 divine runes, you can look for me to apply to learn divine runes combat techniques." The multiple divine runes were all-inclusive. As long as one passed the examination, they would be taught. There were no restrictions on any school. Suyu said again, "After you learn divine runes battle techniques, after you leave, you can also deny that you are from the multiple divine runes school. We don't accept disciples, we only inherit the fire of civilization." In the end, Suyu looked at those students from the single divine runes school. He shouted, "This includes the single divine literature department. You can also come. Especially those who have become students of the divine literature department. I feel that if you come to learn divine literature battle techniques, there should be hope to increase your strength." Once these words were said, Elder Sun and the others all looked at Suyu and Chen Yong. Their expressions changed. How was this a tutorial class? This was a disguised spread of the influence of the multiple divine literature department, increasing the number of people. Elder Sun said coldly, "According to the rules of the academy, non-sects are not allowed to privately pass down cultivation methods and martial techniques." Suyu said directly, "Understood. I've said it before. It's not the inheritance of a sect. I've also said that there's no need to enter the multi-divine literature department. It's just a benefit for everyone. The divine literature battle technique wall belongs to our multi-divine literature department. There's no doubt about this. We're willing to share it with some people. Those who share it are all our own people. This can be considered a gift. Suyu said loudly, Pavilion Elder Son, including your students, if you want to learn, I welcome you. Suyu had a smile on his face. His face was gentle. Come, I welcome you to learn the divine literature battle technique. How could the multi-god literature department be destroyed? It wouldn't be. As long as you have the pursuit of strength, ideas, and ambition, the multi-god literature department wouldn't be destroyed. You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 823. Chapter 823, Chapter 205, Generation After Generation, was even blacker than the previous generation too. And now, Bai Feng had developed a method that could fill the sky with divine runes. It was simply a stroke of genius. If the other students came to learn divine runes battle techniques, they could study them for a few years. Even if they couldn't complete the outline while in the sky, it didn't matter. They could continue to study them later. Their hearts were truly in the school of multiple divine runes. They would continue to teach the outline of the divine literature battle techniques while in the air, and that would be the end of it. Recruiting soldiers and buying horses. This was the main thing that Suyu was doing today. Of course, it was not the sect taking in disciples. On one hand, they did not have that quota. On the other hand, Suyu could not make the decision. He only sought Chen Yong's opinion to see if he could rope in a group of people. Even if he could not rope them into his home, he had to make these people remain neutral. Geniuses would come to learn divine literature battle techniques. And geniuses were usually the descendants or disciples of the Pavilion Elder. Your own family members were all learning divine literature battle techniques, and you had the nerve to suppress them? Pavilion Elder Son frowned. He shouted, many people have forgotten what happened 50 years ago. Don't waste your life. If you waste too much time in the air, can you still fly in the air? More than 10 divine runes and countless wills, history has proven that the so-called divine runes combat techniques are nothing but a burden. Suyu smiled and didn't say anything. He said faintly, perhaps. That's why our academy's first, third, and third generation prefects are all experts in the divine runes department. My grandmaster is only half a step away from the sun and moon. It hasn't even reached the sun and moon yet. Perhaps the divine runes department has really declined, and his strength is only a so-so. Pavilion Elder Son nearly vomited blood. This bastard, using several generations of prefects as an example, how could he refute? Pavilion Elder Son was still angry. Lu Hong suddenly opened his mouth and said, everyone, measure it yourself. Suyu's strength is very strong. Everyone has seen it, but Suyu used up tens of thousands of merit points just by soaring into the air. Not everyone can be like Suyu. When these words were said, many people's faces were filled with shock. How much? Tens of thousands of merit points. Damn! This fellow swallowed the money. At this moment, many people heaved a sigh of relief. So that's how it is. I was wondering why this fellow's cultivation is so fast. For a moment, some people even felt that I can do it. Suyu didn't mind. He smiled and said, then don't you have to thank Teacher Lu and Curator Zhou? If you guys didn't give me so many merit points, I wouldn't have wasted them. Oh right, privately giving merit points is actually not allowed, but I've used them all. Director Huang, please don't inspect me. Suyu smiled and bowed to Lu Hong. He said respectfully, Teacher Lu, thank you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to get so many merit points. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to get the quota for the Sea of Consciousness realm. Suyu said loudly, thank you for Teacher Lu's cultivation. Today, I return the favor. Brother Lin and the others have all gotten the quota. I'm very happy and can repay teacher's help. Lu Hong glared at him. Do you know that I'm a spy? Do you know that we're a family? And you're still trying to trick me. Su Yu's eyes revealed a hint of a smile. Spy your grandpa. I've already asked. Grandmaster doesn't know about this matter at all. That bastard Lu Hong is shameless to the extreme. Thousands of people watched the two of them put on an act. They knew that Su Yu was putting on an act, but at this moment, many people still looked at Lu Hong and the others with strange gazes. They were all merit points given by Lu Hong. This could be given. How? Give us some. Not tens of thousands, just give us 100 merit points. Lu Hong said faintly, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't talk nonsense. Su Yu, who gave you merit points? This is against the law, do you understand? Tens of thousands of merit points is a huge amount. Once it is verified, all your merit points will be frozen. Elder Huang was too lazy to say anything. There was a high probability that there was such a private transaction. As for what the transaction was, he was too lazy to ask. Such a large amount of transaction was definitely an important item. It was obvious that even the experts of the other two elements knew about it. If they weren't caught red-handed, it would be useless to pursue it now. The academy also turned a blind eye to these things. There were indeed some things on the black market that were cheaper. And the resources of the academy weren't too abundant. The black market was actually a supplement. The general direction was under the control of the academy. Su Yu smiled and didn't bother about this. He looked at Lin Yao and the others, he smiled and said, guys, the Many Divine Languages Department welcomes you to study at any time. Now that you have gotten the quota for the Sea of Consciousness mystical realm, be careful. Don't let it be taken away by others. Some people are capable of doing that, especially Brother Lin. His strength is a little weak. Maybe someone took your quota away in a dignified manner. Lin Yao looked at him in a daze. Was it appropriate to say such words in such an occasion? He looked like he was planning for himself. In the next moment, he vaguely understood what Su Yu meant. Was he doing this on purpose to dispel other people's suspicions? He felt that Su Yu was deliberately getting close to him, but in reality, it was impossible for them to get close, just like him and his teacher. Who would believe that his teacher and brother Su were on the same side? Lin Yao seemed to understand what he meant and shouted, it's none of your business. I'm happy to give the quota to someone else. Su Yu smiled and said, then it's up to you. You can give it to him. In fact, you can't keep it even if you don't give it to him. I really hope that Brother Lin can get in. After all, Brother Lin's strength is a little inferior. You need to improve. You. Lin Yao's face was full of anger as if he had been insulted. He looked at Lu Hong on the other side. Lu Hong cursed in his heart. Do you really think that I don't know that you are secretly communicating with Su Yu? Lu Hong also didn't say anything. On the other side, Pavilion Master Sun suddenly said coldly, Su Yu, you don't have to worry about this matter. Lin Yao is a genius student of the Single Divine Language Department. Since he got a spot, that's because of his ability. The Single Divine Language Department doesn't lack spots. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 824. Chapter 824, Chapter 205, The Generation is Worse Than the Generation. Point 3. You want to use this to slander our reputation? Dream on. It was only one spot, and it was originally given away. Now that 3 spots had been taken back by his own people, it saved the one that was prepared to be given to Lu He. As for Lin Yao, he was too weak. He did have thoughts before about whether Lin Yao's spot could be taken back. However, his reputation was not good. Moreover, Lin Yao's grandfather was also an important member of the faction. Since that was the case, there was no need to go through so much trouble just for a spot. On the other hand, his grandfather's side had saved a spot. It was pretty good. The two sides engaged in verbal warfare. He was not afraid of Suyu fighting against them alone. The elders thought that they were powerful and disdained to argue with a small figure like him. This was the key reason why Suyu was not afraid to argue with them. These pavilion elders were all very shameless. As for whether they were shameless or not, that was another matter. Pavilion elder Sun didn't bother with him anymore. Just as Suyu thought, arguing with a student was embarrassing even if they won. It was even more embarrassing if they lost. Arguing with him all the time was simply embarrassing for the pavilion elders. Pavilion elder Sun left immediately. The competition had already ended. Was he going to stay and let others laugh at him? Suyu laughed and suddenly said, "Teacher Lu, I'll pay you a visit tonight. Don't avoid me." Lu Hong frowned. This bastard, what is he up to now? Suyu. Teacher, have you forgotten that you are the head instructor of our freshmen? Isn't it normal for me to pay you a visit? I'm a top 100 student, why do I feel that teacher has a huge prejudice against me? Suyu smiled brightly. Lu Hong frowned and looked at Elder Sun and the others not far away. The next moment, Elder Sun said telepathically, "It's fine. See him. See what he wants to do." Understood. Lu Hong replied and quickly smiled. Alright then, Suyu. Let's be closer tonight. However, he was suspicious. What? Trying to trick me? It was actually not good to trick me into saying that he wanted to see me in public. It would be better to come and see me secretly. Then, he would deliberately give himself away and be discovered by others. Only then would he be able to lie even more miserably. Now that he came to see me directly, he would be fine. What was Suyu thinking? The sky was already dark. The competition had ended. Suyu and Lu Hong argued for a while. They did not stay for long and returned to the research center very quickly. Hong Tan was currently drinking tea. Bai Feng had not returned yet. He was probably still sorting out the divine runes for Lu Wenyan. Seeing that Suyu had returned, Hong Tan sighed in his heart. This fellow was really amazing. He had only entered the academy for a few days, yet he had actually won first place in the top 100. I know about what happened today. Do you want to open a research institute? Suyu smiled foolishly and said, Grandmaster, it's not a research institute. I'm just looking for a group of people to rope in. There are too few people in our department. What I mean is to find some people. Even if they don't work, it's fine to strengthen the momentum. It's also good to do odd jobs. Hong Tan nodded slightly, he thought for a moment and said, to strengthen our reputation, actually, the multi-god literature department isn't as miserable as you think. There are still some people in the school. Cough, cough, but forget it. That's the manpower your martial uncle and the others made themselves. If you want to recruit a group of people, it's up to you. He was too lazy to care about this matter. The multi-god literature department still had some helpers. Suyu's eyes flickered. Was that so? He thought that he was really the only people in the multi-divine prose sect. Grandmaster, then those people who were expelled before. He wasn't talking about 50 years ago, but those people who had been expelled all these years because their divine prose didn't meet the standards. Were these people on the same side? Hong Tan smiled and said, these people. Actually, it's my responsibility too. I didn't teach them properly. Some people couldn't help but directly advance to the next level and soar into the sky. The outline of the divine prose battle technique failed. Your uncle master was so angry that he expelled them all. However, a part of them were planted by other sects, and a part of them really joined our sect. Hong Tan said a few words and sighed. The methods used to expel these people back then were too forceful. Let's wait and see. When your master's splitting and filling method is perfected, I'll see if I can find a few people back. Are they still in the academy? Some are there, and some are no longer. Hong Tan didn't say much. Chen Yong had his own arrangements for these matters, and he didn't care too much about these things over the years. On the other hand, once Baifeng's split-and-fill method was perfected, it would be the foundation for the rise of the polytheistic culture. Otherwise, no matter how nice it sounded, no matter how much they did, the polytheistic culture would become fewer, and gradually decline. That was also inevitable. Hong Tan thought for a moment, looked at Su Yu, and said in a deep voice, "You're still weak. Don't provoke those guys again and again. Be careful that these guys will do evil things to you. It's still better to keep a low profile." Su Yu disagreed. "Grandmaster, I know, but even if we don't make any movements, these people will not get along with us peacefully. Keeping a low profile or not keeping a low profile is the same result. You've seen senior sister's end. She usually doesn't get involved in these things. What's the result? Wuxia rarely participated in the major affairs of the sect. She just foolishly cultivated, became stronger, and made it onto the leaderboard. What was the result? Sometimes, it wasn't as if you could solve the problem just by keeping a low profile. Su Yu still wanted to keep a low profile. He even wanted to cultivate in peace. Hong Tan thought for a moment and nodded slightly. When I enter the sun and moon, there will be fewer such things, unless Zhou Mingren also enters the sun and moon. As he spoke, there was a moment of silence. Entering the sun and moon. Actually, entering the sun and moon had some troubles. Of course, there was no need to tell Su Yu. If he entered the sun and moon, Zhou Polong might come and look for him. Hong Tan looked at him for a while and said with a smile, "Forget it, you can make your own decisions. You are a person with ideas, go and torment yourself. You are stronger than your teacher, and your teacher is actually pretty good." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 825. Chapter 825, Chapter 205. Generation after generation is worse than generation after generation. Please subscribe to Monthly 4. Baifeng did not like scheming, but there was one good thing about him. He was rarely schemed against. He had the ability to seek benefits and avoid harm. If it was good for him, he would listen to it. If it was not good, he would pretend not to hear it. No matter what you said, it was always the same result. He rarely argued with Lu Hong. In the past, when Lu Hong competed with him, he was often beaten up by Baifeng. "If I feel that you're harming me, I'll chop you up." Lu Hong was also very helpless when he met such a person. Su Yu also smiled and didn't say anything more about this matter. Instead, he brought up another matter. "Grandmaster, previously, Manor Head Wan asked me to look for him, but I never went. Do I need to go over to Manor Head Wan's side? Wan Tiansheng is looking for you." Hong Tan had heard of this last time. After thinking for a moment, he said, "You can go. I can't tell what Wan Tiansheng is thinking about either, but he's a person that I can generally rest assured about." "Oh right, don't let your thoughts run wild in front of him. Don't forget the matter of Fatty Xia taking care of you last time." Su Yu was speechless. He could not help but ask, "Grandmaster, can they see through your thoughts?" "It's not that they can see through it. It's just that your willpower is weak and your thoughts are fluctuating. They can sense a thing or two. Once it involves themselves, their senses will be even more obvious." Su Yu nodded. He had to be more careful. In the future, when he met these experts, even if he hated them to the core, he had to think of loving them. After saying all this, Hong Tan continued, "Your master has been recuperating recently. While he's at it, he helped my senior brother comb through the divine inscriptions. He won't be back for a short period of time. Next month, he has to go to the celestial battlefield. Next, I have to prepare to break through to the sun-moon realm. Your senior uncle doesn't know how to cultivate in seclusion. If there's anything, go look for him. Senior uncle, he. Suyu whispered, senior uncle has been in a strange state recently. Grandmaster, is his cultivation not going well? His state is not right. Hong Tan really didn't notice it, he thought for a while and said, about Jia Jia. Your senior uncle, sigh, it's hard to say. Your senior uncle was ambushed by the people of the Wan clan. Jia Jia's parents died in that ambush in order to save him. Your senior uncle owes Jia Jia a lot. He has always loved her like his own daughter. The last time Jia Jia was injured, your senior uncle felt that he didn't teach her well. Jia Jia was taught by him to be inflexible. In the end, she was severely injured. In the end, those people turned their attention to Jia Jia again. Your uncle master must have been annoyed. Hong Tan sighed when he mentioned this matter, he sighed softly, Zhou Mingren and the others, it's enough to provoke your uncle master again and again. I actually thought of asking your uncle master to give up the position of curator and enter the mountains and seas as soon as possible. There's no need to guard the library pavilion. Give up. Suyu was depressed. Grandmaster, if we give up the library pavilion again, we'll lose everything. Hong Tan smiled and said, the things aren't important. It's fine as long as the person is still here. I actually don't really care about these things. Things are dead, but people are alive, aren't they? For the position of curator of the library pavilion, if they fought too fiercely, Chen Yong wouldn't have much of a problem. Wuxia's side would always be targeted. Right now, the single divine language department had suffered a great loss, but they might not give up. Wuxia had yet to enter the top 100. Suyu nodded slightly and said, Grandmaster, will you be found out if you plot to frame and kill a researcher in the academy? Hong Tan looked at him fixedly. Brat, what do you mean? Speak more clearly. Suyu said with a simple and honest face, I'm just making an analogy. If someone framed a researcher and said that the researcher colluded with the religion of the 10,000 races, what would be the outcome? Hong Tan frowned, don't do it. Be careful, you won't be able to clean up the mess. He's not stupid. Unless the evidence is conclusive, there will definitely be flaws in framing him. Once it's found out and implicates you, even if you don't die, you'll still be sent to the vanguard camp. What if it can't be found out? There's nothing that can't be found out. Suyu said faintly, but that invincible opponent of ours has never been found out. Hong Tan looked at him and frowned. This grand disciple of his, really didn't look like Bai Feng. Nor did he look like his father. He had seen his father on the battlefield, and he was such an honest person. No, was he really honest? Not necessarily. Hong Tan sighed and pondered for a moment before saying, some things will come to an end sooner or later. There's no need for you to do everything. Don't look down on us too much. If there's a problem, we will solve it ourselves. Just focus on cultivating. Suyu smiled and nodded. Hong Tan did not know if he had heard it or not. And Suyu waited for him to finish speaking, only then did he say, Grandmaster, I understand. The single divine prose faction is our shield. You have always thought so, but in my opinion, as time passes, they have already forgotten this fact. We still have to make them suffer a little, so that they will know who is the master. If we are too gentle, our senior will be severely injured, master will be severely injured, Lu Laoshi will be severely injured, and Xia Yunqi and the other seniors will be severely injured. Suyu looked at Hong Tan and said, Grand Teacher, if we don't retaliate, others will think that we are easy to bully. I initially wanted to cultivate in a low-key manner, but as you can see, a tiger will never hurt others, and a human will only harm the heart of a tiger. Hong Tan frowned, don't cause too much trouble, or else your Grand Teacher won't be able to hold on either. Don't forget, there's still that person in the academy. He can protect you from others, and he can also protect others. He won't interfere in small matters, but if there's a human life involved, he won't ignore it. Suyu nodded. He knew this. Hong Tan didn't say anything more. Young people nowadays were ruthless and evil. They were much more evil than their generation. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Their generation was still relatively simple. When it came to Qin Yong's generation, there were some changes. When it came to Bai Feng's generation, the changes were even greater. When it came to Su Yu's generation, he felt that he couldn't keep up with the pace. He could only fight and do research. Su Yu did not bother Hong Tan anymore. He went upstairs to cultivate and went to see Lu Hong at night. As for Wan Tianqing's side, it was time for him to go see him too. Even after entering the academy for a few months, he had not seen Wan Tianqing. He had only seen his shadow.